On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Extra time on Talk Sport.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, and you're listening to The Two Mikes on Extra Time. It is a 5-hour extravaganza, the first of very, very many right here on Talk Sport. We're going to go round the world. We're going to find out why behind every good sportsman is a very good woman. Mike Porky Parry's going to tell us why things are as bad as ever at Manchester United under Louis van Gaal. And, of course, we'll be giving him a quiz on English literature. Much more than that, we'll be giving you all the transfer latest as well. We'll be taking your calls too, 08717 22 3344. You're listening to The Two Mikes on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are The Two Mikes, and of course, every Friday morning we'll be here for 5 hours, giving you all the latest from the newspapers, all the latest from what's going on in every single part of the world. And when I was in a very different part of the world, it's very interesting when you're in a place like Turkey, because you do get a sense that you are on the cusp of Asia, you know, because it is technically...
Well, you are, actually.
Yeah, well, you are, yeah. That's why you get a sense that you're on the cusp of Asia, because you are on the cusp
but I mean,
of Asia.
you said that as though it's something that you've just revealed to us. Why do you think
I'm just telling you because I happen to be somebody that goes on holiday, unlike you, who goes down to
I told you
Regis
before
and
you went to
Bournemouth every so
Turkey,
often.
it's where East meets West.
Yes.
I told you about my trip over the Bosphorus. I told you about all the Russian spy trips that go up into the Black Sea.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Russians, because, you know, the place was full of Russian tourists.
But it wasn't.
Russian holidaymakers.
No, it wasn't, you see, it wasn't. They weren't Russians. They were like from some other Eastern European countries.
No, they were Russians.
No, they weren't. Do you know why? The Russians are all staying at home because of the situation
That's not true.
in Gulf relations between the West and Russia. I'm telling you.
The main language being spoken was Russian. The main attraction...
Yeah, lots of people speak Russian, but they're not Russians.
No, I know that, but the point is that, you know, the people that were running the hotel that I was staying in said to me, by far and away, the biggest group of people that come here are Russians, and the biggest number of people here at the moment are Russians.
But they're not coming at the moment. You see,
they're all there.
No, Mike, you can go to Nice or Monaco now, and you can get, like, fantastic suites. In fact, I was half price, because the Russians who were coming
they might
have not arrived in
Nice.
their yachts, and they've not arrived on their private aeroplanes,
and
they're not taking up their usual positions.
Well, excuse me, I'm not talking about the super rich. I'm not talking about the people that, you know, like Abramovich. I'm talking about the ordinary Russians who've got a bit of money.
No, there's no ordinary
Russians.
Holiday. There are no ordinary Russians.
There are.
No, there's not. No, there's not.
I was on holiday with them.
No, you weren't. No, there's very rich Russians and the super rich Russians, but there's no working class Russians.
Well, the Russians that were
the working class Russians can't afford a bottle of vodka, let alone pushing off to Turkey on holiday.
So you'd have no interest in my stories about Russians from when my trip. Some of them were from Georgia, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, they're Georgians. They're Georgians.
of course
they're
they
not
were.
Russians.
They're not Russians.
Well, now I've made my point. Now you're being sensible.
No, you haven't. In fact, one of the guys that I spoke to who worked there, who was from Georgia, whose name was Isaac, and I became quite friendly with him. I used to see him around the resort.
Spoke good English, did he?
He spoke very good English, and he said, I really like meeting English people. Not very many English people come here, he said, because most of the time it's Russians. That was what he said. He said, and I'm from Georgia.
Why did you go, by the way?
And I don't like Russians. That's what he told me.
Yeah, well, there you go. So he's not Russian, is he?
No, he's not.
No, well, there you go. I've just proved my point. You were saying that, I've got it all wrong. Now you've just proved I've got it all right.
No,
as usual.
No, I've just said...
Trying to turn things on your head against me.
The guy who works there said almost everyone here is Russian. That's what he said. Those were his words.
That's like saying...
what I saw as well. It was a massive... those new Mercedes sort of... a GLS, those big sort of four-wheel drive things that they sell for about 100,000 quid.
Really?
One of those parked right in front of the hotel with an Azerbaijan number plate. A
lot
of
the
people
guy
from Azerbaijan.
The guy driven from Azerbaijan, had he?
Yeah.
And how far away is that?
A few hundred miles, not that far.
Oh, just a few hundred? Yeah, well, I suppose you could do that. No, the point is, Mike, that, you see, you're generically describing people as Russian when they're Georgian, Ukrainian, they could be Kazakhstanis.
Kazakhstanis? Kazakhs?
Yeah, well, that's the same thing. They could be Azerbaijanis.
Yeah, they were. Many of them were.
Well, there you go. They're not Russians then, are they?
No, I know they're
not. They were Russians 30 years ago, but they're not Russians anymore.
You're not listening to me.
That is like saying...
You're not listening to me.
That's like saying 1/3 of the world is covered in Chinese people. Mandarin people are not necessarily Chinese.
Aren't they?
You've got to get it right.
What are they then?
The Mandarins.
There were some Chinese people there as well, and some Japanese people.
Oh, really?
But the people, I'm going to move off this now because you're clearly incapable of actually understanding what I'm telling you.
Not at all.
But what I was going to tell you is that the Russian people that were there were incredibly rude, and I was reading about this later on.
Really?
They don't like to look
lots
you.
of people are rude to you because they see your fat, ignorant face, and I'm not being offensive here, but
really?
that's the way it looks.
I think that's quite offensive.
No, that's the way it looks to most people on first sight. They say first impressions. They look at you and they think that guy's sort of got a bit of a spreaded face. He's ignorant.
But they had this scene at breakfast at this massive restaurant where they would cook all manner of things, right? And there would be a queue for the things that people were supposed to be going up because it was one of these all-inclusive resorts. So you just go up and get
so did you have to queue, for instance, for the poached eggs and all that sort of stuff?
Well, you wouldn't normally, but you would say queue for an omelette.
Right.
And you would have a line of people who were all waiting patiently for the omelette to be cooked.
Okay.
And when the omelette was cooked, the Russians would appear from the other side and just put their plates out and get the omelettes from everybody.
What, that you'd been waiting for?
Yeah.
No, you're joking.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Well, what did you do about it?
Well, in the end,
did you started
elbowing them out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And saying "niet" a lot.
So whilst...
But they were also pushing my kids out of the way. It was absolutely unbelievable.
So while we've got the West locking horns with Russia, so we've got Putin versus Obama over the situation regarding the Ukraine, which could potentially end up in World War III.
I don't think so.
We've also got the omelette wars on a beach in Turkey, involving old MG and Fat Boris.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that it?
It was absolutely extraordinary, and all of them,
extraordinary,
and all of them were accompanied
turning the world on its head.
They were accompanied by very glamorous women. We're going to be talking later on in this hour.
Younger glamorous women.
To a woman, pardon?
Younger glamorous women.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Who were all carrying, like Louis Vuitton handbags, and were all looking, and everyone was wearing a bikini. I mean, there was none of this kind of when you go to an English resort. Some of the women are not wearing bikinis because they don't think they look good enough to wear one.
Right.
These were women who were all mothers, but it was like Yummy Mummy Central. They were all mothers, and they were all looking absolutely amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
And what, like stiletto heels and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, the whole thing.
So it was a very attractive sight then by the swimming pool.
It was.
Was it?
It was. And we had the seaside as well. You claim to have some picture of me that you've somehow come across.
I've got it here. Somebody sent it me.
But I don't know.
Do you know what? I think this picture, I'm not joking, Mike, has been taken by a satellite. Because it's a picture right from... I'm going to find it.
Where's it come from?
I don't know. Somebody sent it to me. In fact, I don't even know where it is now. Wait a minute. It's here somewhere. Wait a minute. And the point I'm trying to make is that I thought, what a weird picture. And where did it come from? And it's come from a height. I think somebody's taken this off a satellite. And
because there was no pictures taken of me in the
reason
sea.
I'm stuttering, folks, is I'm looking through...
You're stuttering because you can't actually do two things at once.
Hang on.
You can't do two things at once.
Hang on.
You can't actually look at something on Twitter and talk at the same time, can you?
I can't even find it. But it's definitely in this phone here somewhere.
Well, so you say.
It is, and as soon as I find it, I'm going to send it out so the rest of our millions of listeners can make up their own mind of what it is. It's when I said to you in the first hour, you look like a giant starfish floating around in the sea,
like a star.
Exactly. And if I could find it, I would. I'd make it available. I'm going to find it, folks. I'll get somebody behind the glass here who knows a bit more about these things than I do, and send it out to you for your delectation.
Delicatation.
Okay? Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, meanwhile, while you're trying to get somebody to sort that out for you, why don't you give us your theory on why we'll soon be all working in the dark?
Well, OK, I'll tell you all about it. Now, the way it works is... Hang on,
we've got some more papers.
No, research.
You want to have another look in the bin?
No.
You sure? You want somebody to rifle through some of the rubbish for you?
No. Now, look, this all... and by the way, I have researched this. This is not like me making things up or anything like that. It all started when I read that in future you might get your mail collections in your local area as posted. Sorry, collections from post boxes.
Yeah.
Collections from post boxes may have to be put back in the day to as early as 7 a.m.
What, you mean that's the only collection they're going to do?
The only collection.
Because now they do two anyway, don't they? Do one at midday and one at 5.
That's right, yeah. Now, in future, it could be...
Do you actually still use a post box?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, of course I do.
You know, there's one opposite my place in London.
Yeah.
But down in Sussex, it's very hard to find a post box.
No, I use post boxes, and post boxes are vital coming up to the part of the year we are now, Christmas, because you send Christmas cards. I cannot abide...
Had one from you. I didn't get a birthday card. It was my birthday when I was away, by the way.
I sent out some sort of a tweet saying happy birthday or something. Yeah, I did, yeah.
I thought you were going to deliver something to my my holiday.
No, I didn't know where you were, and one of the Russians probably nicked it anyway if I did send it. Anyway, the point of the story is, I cannot abide people who send out emails instead of Christmas cards. When they do that, I send it back. I send it back. It's an insult. If you can't be bothered to go and buy...
I don't think I've ever had a Happy Christmas email.
I have. Yeah, I have. Yeah. If you can't be bothered to buy a Christmas card and, with a picture of Santa Claus on the front and all... Right, yeah, I found this picture now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
No, you haven't found it. The producer has found it.
Yeah, how do I send it? That's what I've got the picture, so what do I do? Right, OK, says top one. OK, right, I'll do this in the next break. Now, what I was going to say is...
Are you sure you can manage that?
Yeah.
So we have to put on some extra adverts?
No. Don't be parsimonious. Now...
not being parsimonious.
So these collections, if they take place at 7 a.m, between 7 and 9 a.m...
It doesn't matter because it will still never get there.
No. It will. It's a very efficient service.
No,
It's just that it's revolutionised by other means of communication. So what I'm saying is that the chap who's going to be collecting the post at 7 a.m. in the morning will clearly be on the same sort of time schedule as we are and getting up at perhaps midnight or 1 o'clock to go to work.
Well, that's what postmen already do.
No, they don't. No, not that early. They can get up at 3 o'clock to get into work for half 4 or 5.
There's an awful lot of postmen listen to our show who tell us that they're up at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yes, but in future they're going to have to get up at 10 o'clock at night and get into work at 12. Because if you are going out and collecting the mail that early, you've got all the other work you've got to do, which postmen do before they go out.
Well, they're collecting at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Why would they get in at 10 the night before?
Because, no, they get up at 10 the night before, they get into their postal collection office, whatever it's called.
Sorting office.
All mail sorting office, that's it. At about midnight, they get all that sorted, and then they have to go out and collect the mail.
So the stuff they're sorting,
bring it back.
They collected at 7 the previous morning.
That's absolutely right.
Well, that's no use, is it?
Well, it's the way...
they're supposed to deliver it by the next morning.
It's the way things works. Now, so there's that. Now, the other thing is, I've read that a major, and I mean a major, supermarket chain in this country is now... applying for permission to open its doors at 7 a.m. instead of 10 a.m. because they realise that this part of the day now is extremely valuable for trading.
There's a supermarket down the road that opens at 6.
No, but that's an express one. That's an express one.
So?
And there's lots of express 24 hours.
Yeah.
This is the major supermarket. That's what I'm saying. Open at 7. They don't.
Well, they should be open 24 hours anyway.
Well, I'm not sure about that. But look, what I'm saying is this. As the world gets more full, and it does get more full... Obviously,
with more people, you mean?
More people, absolutely. Then there's not going to be enough room in each hemisphere for everybody to exist in daylight hours. We are going to have a situation...
Well, surely you exist in daylight and in darkness.
No, we will have a situation, I'm not joking, Mike, which will emerge and you will be one of two people in society. You'll either be night or light. Do you see?
Yeah, I know.
Night being dark.
You seem to be making one major flaw in your argument.
Night being dark, light being daytime.
Yeah, but we're still there at night as well as during the day. It's not like you disappear when it gets dark, is it?
What I'm saying is, eventually, there will be a 24-hour society when the nighters will have exactly the same facilities available to them, i.e. trains...
What, you mean like New York, in other words?
Well, you're a bit like New York.
The
New York's
tube's
not completely...
The tube's going to be running 24 hours soon.
Well, yeah, but only on very selected routes and only at the weekends. So that's not.
Well, it's a halfway step, isn't it?
It's a halfway step. So what I'm saying is complete transport facilities, bars and shops open, availability of public services are all going to be going 24 hours a day soon. Because think how much resource we waste when 95% of the population simply absolves itself from society for 8 hours overnight, from about 10 o'clock at night till about 6 o'clock next morning. What a waste. I mean, why don't we switch all the lights off to start off with?
We do.
Well, no, we don't. We got road lamps. We got road lamps 24 hours a day.
Those off, haven't they?
Well, they should switch them off. It's a complete waste of time. No, it's not. If I go down to the coast sometimes,
if I go down
the coast sometimes, it could be me on the road for an hour, not seeing another traffic car, another car, and the lights are on all over the place. They don't need them. The car's got headlights.
Well, I drove out of Gatwick yesterday morning at 1:20 in the morning, and there was loads of traffic on the M25. So there goes your theory, Porky.
That backs up my theory. 24-hour day traffic.
We are the two miles.
We're all going on a summer holiday. No more working for a week or two.
It was a great time I had in Turkey, I have to tell you. And the thing that annoys me about you is, like, a lot of people have said, look, you're talking absolute cobblers. One guy has texted in, he says, what's his name? He hasn't got a name. Oh, Lards, he says.
What's his name?
Tweeted, Lards. He says, shut up, Parry.
Lards?
I just came home from holiday and the place was full of rude, obnoxious Russians pushing in and not queuing. So
and where was he?
He doesn't say where he was, but it obviously means that there was a lot of Russians about anyway. But that's the point.
Yeah, but hang on, which part of the world was he in?
He doesn't say.
Well, in that case, that's a completely invalid tweet, or sorry, message, email, whatever he sent us. Because if he's not telling us where he is, he could have been in Moscow. And if you're in Moscow, there's a lot of Russians in Moscow.
There are a lot of Russians in Moscow.
Exactly. What a silly message.
And in many other places as well.
Yeah.
But the good thing was,
like
it was all kind
Ukraine.
of settled down, because in the second week, actually, there were many fewer of them, and I think they'd all gone home, and many more different nationalities came in.
What sort of nationalities?
Well, there were people from Azerbaijan, as I
Well,
said, people from Georgia.
You're claiming they're all Russians.
Russians.
Anyway, tell me a little bit about the way the holiday went on a daily basis. So you get up in the morning, walk along the beach with your children.
Well, first you go for breakfast, know, because they did have a very lavish breakfast array.
Where they were stealing all your omelettes.
You could have anything from, minced beef, and sort of meatballs and various different egg dishes.
Could you get bacon and sausage?
They didn't really have... They had Turkish sausage, which is not the same. So you wouldn't have liked it. It was more like salami. But I tended to have a sort of continental-style breakfast.
Yeah, I don't like that. I like real breakfast. I like a bit of bacon sausage, mushrooms...
Well, you don't get that when you travel.
Black pudding, all that kind of stuff.
You don't get an English breakfast. Well, so you go to Turkey and asking for an English breakfast.
That's why I've always liked Spain, because... Many people
egg and chips.
Yeah, many people. I don't
pathetic.
eat eggs, but many people mock it. But when I see the sign outside, real English breakfast, spelled badly, spelled BREKFAS, I go in there because they do try very hard to give you a real English breakfast, and it tastes nearly like an English breakfast.
You can't have a real English breakfast without eggs.
Well, I've never eaten an egg in my life, so I can. I can.
Can't.
Of course I can, because I don't eat eggs. It's not part of my diet.
Anyway, Turkey is also a Muslim country, so the idea of them having bacon is kind of unrealistic, isn't it?
Well, not really. I mean, is Turkey a Muslim country?
Yes.
Well, is it? But it's
it?
West, isn't it?
It's got an Islamic government, for heaven's sake.
It's got an Islamic government. It's got lots of mosques, including the Blue Mosque, which is the famous one in Istanbul.
So how does that not make it a Muslim country then?
Well, what I'm saying is that Britain is a Christian country with a very big Muslim faith. And they have Muslim traditions and cultures, parts of their culture, in Muslim communities in this country.
Yeah, I know.
So all I'm saying is that most people...
Turkey is a Muslim country. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
But most people who go to these resorts, like the one you went to, which is an all-inclusive booze-fueled fortnight... Yes, it was. We'll get on to that in a minute.
I tweeted a few pictures
what I'm
of
saying
some of the
is,
nice tropical drinks that I had.
Don't you think that they should cater for the traditions and culture of their guests, most of whom are, by the sound of it, sort of Christian?
No.
Russians are not Muslims.
No, some of them might be, but generally
no, they're usually not. They're usually not.
They're not. Well, they weren't complaining.
They go to the Russian Orthodox Church.
Yeah, well, they weren't complaining there wasn't any bacon. The point is, if you go to a foreign country...
Except when they were communists, because then they weren't allowed to.
But this is why you don't go anywhere, isn't it? Because in the end, you can't abide being anywhere that is not sort of basically British.
What do you mean I never go anywhere? I've been everywhere. I've been everywhere in the world. I mean,
when was the last time you went on holiday?
I've never been on holiday for about 25 years. but I mean, that's different.
So, therefore, you haven't been anywhere on holiday.
Well,
which is entirely different from when you go to work.
But in pursuit of my work, I've been everywhere for the last 30 years. So why do I need to go on holiday? What are you going on holiday for?
You go on holiday to relax, to
relax,
enjoy yourself,
don't do
to show your children different parts of the world.
I just can't,
and to have some quality time with your family. Oh yeah, you haven't got a family. That's why you don't go.
Oh, sorry, that cruel jibe is meant to do what?
Oh, so that's cruel now, is it?
Yeah, cruel jibe, yeah.
You just told me you've got a picture of me that looks like it was taken by a satellite.
Yes, I've sent it out.
You don't think that's cruel?
Of course it's not cruel. I'm making a statement there and saying, look, this, you're a bit like the Great Wall of China. You can be seen from space. That's the sort of size you are, pal. and the point I was making about holidays is, why on earth would I want to go and lie by a pool in Barbados thinking to myself, this is quite nice for 10 minutes, but I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of the day after that.
Well, I'll tell you what you do. You have breakfast, OK? You then
go
back.
That takes 20 minutes, yeah.
Well, I'd say it takes... No, not with two kids, it doesn't. But anyway, so I'll take that. You go back to the room.
Yeah.
You slather a load of sun cream on the kids, which takes about another 20 minutes. You then go down to the pool. Why are you yawning?
Sorry, I'm not yawning.
You're yawning.
Well,
I'm telling you a story about my kids.
Yeah, but then, I'm getting a bit sort of fed up with this. This sort of image you're trying to give to our millions of listeners about
38-degree heat.
This domestic god that you are. Your children. And all
38-degree heat, right? So you go down to the swimming pool. You have a bit of a swim. The bar opens. The bar's pretty much always open. Yeah. So I would have my first pina colada around about probably 11:30 in the morning.
That's a disgrace.
Why?
With two children.
Yeah.
Two young children.
They haven't got very much alcohol in them. I mean, they're very creamy drinks. It's got a tiny small amount of Bacardi. And then
excuse me.
By the time you've had a few drinks, it's time for lunch.
Can I just reveal to our millions of listeners the conversation we had this morning, the first time we spoke, and I said, what was it like? I said, it was one of those all-inclusive holidays.
Yeah.
Oh, so go a few drinks. Yes. You then said, but it's not like one of those all-inclusive holidays in the Caribbean or places like that.
No, I did not say anything like that.
Yes, you did, where they water down all the drinks. Yes, you did. And I said, oh, really? You said, yeah, it wasn't cheap vodka. It was real good Russian stuff because there were loads of Russians there. So you were drinking...
Which you've now disputed.
So you were drinking very strong drinks for most of the day. What's a mojito, by the way?
A mojito is a Cuban drink, which is also rum-based.
What's it full of?
It's got sugar in it. It's got sugar cane in it.
Well, you told me you were on those all night as well.
You need a mortar and pestle for that.
You told me that you took your children to a nightclub. I mean, what a lesson of parenting this is.
Well, it's an outdoor nightclub for a start. So the whole place is
kids to a nightclub and you drink mojitos all night.
The whole thing is designed for kids, right? So it's an outdoor nightclub.
You won't be winning Father of the Year anytime soon.
They had a dance show every night, which the kids enjoyed. They had a laser show one night, which they really liked.
Yeah.
And sometimes if they got tired, one of us would take one of the kids home, and then the other one wanted to stay up late. He stayed up late. That's what you do on holiday. You don't understand it. You're sitting there shaking your head because you don't know how to enjoy yourself.
If I had gone with a partner in life...
if you had one...
Yes, hang on. You know, do you have to be so offensively rude?
Not being offensive.
I was only going to inquire, is it your partner or your wife, or how do I address this lady?
Why do you want to address her at all?
Well, because I don't want to, misguidedly give the impression there's something going on that there isn't, or whatever.
It's not
you know
my
what
wife.
I mean? Well, it's not your
We're
wife.
not married.
Mother of your children.
Yeah, mother of my children.
Right, so you and the mother of your children, your two children, I won't then of course that keeps you occupied for the day.
It does.
But you keep berating me for not going on holiday, and I keep saying to you, if I went on holiday, I'd probably go on my own because I don't want to disturb anybody else's life. What would I do 10 minutes after lying down on a sun lounger in the shade?
You can swim.
Oh, that takes 5 minutes. What do I do then?
Well, you only swim for 5 minutes.
Well, of course you only swim for 5 minutes.
You can exercise. You can swim for an hour if you want.
Well, that's boring. That is very boring. I wouldn't do that. I'd then get back off the old sun lounger, find something to read, but then 10 minutes later, nothing to do.
How about you read a book? It takes more than 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, but you can read a book for half an hour, and then I have to read another book. You know.
And you told yourself, well read. Here's Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham. We are the two Mikes. Coming up, we're going to speak to a woman who's going to tell us all about why women are more important to sportsmen than actually anybody had ever previously believed. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast, as usual, out in a few hours' time, of course. It will be 3 hours long, for those of you who've been asking, because obviously with the 5-hour show that we're now doing, it's a little bit too long to put it all into one particular podcast. So we'll cut out all the stupid things that Mike Porky Parry says, and that'll cut at least 2 hours out of the show.
Oh, that's very nice, isn't it? That's very nice. You see, well, I mean, that is just absolutely bland. What's the word? Something-ism. Victimisationism.
Victimisationism.
Or whatever.
That's not a word.
Yeah, well.
Now, the reason... of course, we were playing that little bit of music there, Independent Woman, is because Alistair Cook came out the other day after... This all happened while I was away, I think. England finally won something at cricket, right? Yeah. And Alistair Cook came out and gave all the credit to his wife and said if it hadn't been for her, he probably would have quit as captain of the England cricket team. So why did he say that, do you think?
Well, he said that because he's gone through a very rough period, right? And I think what he was trying to do was trying to express the depths of despair to which he got before it suddenly bucked up. And the England cricket team obviously revived now and in a much, much better place.
So they've now beaten India
in a
series. Test cricket, a team that have not won away from home, I think, for the best part of the last decade.
Yeah, but that wasn't stopping England losing against poor teams before that. So, but anyway, getting to Alistair Cook, what I'm saying is, now, everybody came out next day and said, oh, you know, how brave to come forward and that kind of stuff. Frankly, from my point of view, that to me is another illustration of weakness. If you've got to rely on your wife to actually prop you up emotionally, almost physically, you know, in terms of keeping your spirits up, make sure you eat properly.
But isn't that what a relationship's supposed to be all about?
No, a relationship based on the... historic iniquities of the human frame and mind are the caveman principle. It might be for you, but not for most people. No, it is, and I don't mean that we should all be cavemen. What I'm saying is that, hunter-gatherer type thing is what it's all about. That's the basic instincts. Now, of course, there's this old expression about behind every good man is a woman and all that kind of stuff, and there've been, outstanding women in the past. Who was the wife of... the American president who became more famous than he did.
You're talking about Betty Ford?
No. She had a problem and she started a clinic for drunks because she had an alcoholic problem. No, I'm talking about...
She had a pill addiction, actually.
Yeah, but she also had a drink problem.
Yeah.
It was pill and drink, OK? That's why she opened the Betty Ford Clinic.
That's right.
Now, who was the...
You're talking about Hillary Clinton?
No, I know all about that. No, who was the wife of Franklin D. Roosevelt? What was her name?
Mrs. Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. but what I mean is, you fool. I mean, what was it?
You mean Jackie Kennedy?
No, about Jackie Kennedy.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Eleanor Roosevelt. Now, this is the woman. That's the one I'm talking about.
It's a long time ago, that.
But there's a book just came out on it. Now, the thing is, that was quite different because Franklin D had a crippling deficiency.
FDR.
It's the name of the drive, of course, in New York. It's the East River Drive, isn't it? FDR. And of course he was disabled. They had polio, I think, didn't they, or something like that. But anyway, and they always hid it, whenever they had press conferences and all that. They always put the wheelchair.
But that's what I mean. It was a very different time,
right under the table. That's the right kind of stuff. Now, a guy like that would need a strong one behind him because you physically would need her help and assistance and all that kind of stuff. And people think that being in a wheelchair means you're just sitting down. It's not. There's all sorts of other problems with your circulation and all that kind of stuff, which has to be addressed. But a man who's as able as England cricket captain, in my view, should be a swashbuckler. And,
Ian Botham kind of figure.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we live in different times now, though.
And
men are not frightened to show their vulnerability. I know you don't like to do it.
Sorry,
you don't like to show your vulnerability. Do you?
I don't think I've got any vulnerabilities.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, well, I can't show them then, can I? If I haven't got any, I can't show them.
Emotions at all.
What do you want me to do? Do you want me to go around?
You're like a husk.
No, hang on. Do you want me to go around
and
occasionally start weeping a bit and then get somebody to take a picture of me, a selfie,
well, I mean,
and then put it on Twitter and say,
if somebody else
I'm a
takes
bit
a
emotionally
picture,
distraught today. Say something kind about me,
If somebody
please.
else takes a picture of you, it's not a selfie for a start.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Anyway, let's talk to somebody who's going to make much more of a contribution to this argument. Monica Tischler is a journalist down in New Zealand with the Western Leader. She's written about this, of course. And Monica, you may be appalled to have listened to that conversation. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Monica.
Very well
Thank
indeed.
you very much indeed for joining us.
What do you think about Alistair Cook's statement and the general kind of principle in sport now that women are very much part of the vernacular, I suppose, of these sportsmen and their success?
Yes. Well, I mean, I guess it is quite true. And I mean, so often the women are sort of put into the spotlight as the wags, and it's quite glamorized and it's very, focused on their physical image and things like that. But I think they do really play quite a strong part behind the scenes, and I guess I think teamwork is quite key in a relationship, and I guess the sportsmen are quite used to teamwork, in their sport, but it kind of transfers back to the relationship as well.
But if they're in a team, does it not make it more difficult for them because they're used to having this kind of camaraderie with the guys in the dressing room where the wives are not, right? So they have to go away from that and kind of betray whatever the secrets of the dressing room are to let the wife in on it, if you like.
Yeah, I guess it's just all a matter of for the woman to provide a listening ear and to be that support for them, when they come home and if they've had a tough game.
Yeah, bad day. We say bad day at the office, dear.
Bad day at the office.
Monica,
they've just got to be there.
Let me ask you this, please. That's all very well looking at it from one point of view. I look at it from the other point of view. Women, generally speaking, can be very sympathetic to the emotional needs of their partner in life, more sympathetic than a man would be to a woman. So what I worry about is if there's this dependency on the female member of the relationship, that dependency might backfire when the wife or the girlfriend or partner or whatever says, you've had enough of this. I hate to see you in this mental turmoil. It's not good for the kids. It's tearing the family apart. Give it up now. And that could have been the consequence had this woman who is Mrs. Cook had a different point of view.
Exactly. I guess, and it all just comes down to the individual. I mean, I guess you could look at Rory McIlroy and his tennis star fiance, and they called it quits. And
she didn't have any choice. I mean, she wasn't saying to Rory, "Look, Rory, you've got to buckle down here and all that." Rory said, "Actually, I don't think I'm doing as well as I could, and one of the reasons could be because of our relationship. So I'm afraid, Caroline, you're history, and I will go on and be a great golfer."
Yeah. Well, I guess it all just comes down to the individual, and I, in my feature that I wrote on the woman behind the sports stars, I interviewed the girlfriend behind Thomas Abercrombie, one of our New Zealand Breakers basketball players, and she said, it's so important for the woman to have her own goals and her own dreams, and to want a successful career of her own, because I guess if you don't have those desires and those goals of your own, then if you're living in the shadow of
But then you kind of have to, don't you? I mean,
if
you're Alistair Cook and you're the England captain of the cricket team, I mean, regardless, I suppose,
from the front.
Regardless of whatever he's up to, you're going to have to be as supportive to him as you can be, rather than having your own career at the time, because his career is only going to last for a short length of time. I mean, like most married couples, the career continues on into your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. Alistair Cook's not going to be captain of England in 10 years' time. He's not going to be making the same kind of money as a cricketer. So, maybe she doesn't actually go out and get her own job at this point.
No. And I guess it all just comes down to, if you're in that loving relationship and you want to support that person through their career highlights, and then figure out what you want to do after.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's very much what you have to do. Monica, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Monica Tischler from Auckland. Have you ever been to Auckland in New Zealand?
No.
You thought you said you've been everywhere.
Well, you know what I mean. Well, I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
I used to write a column for a newspaper in Auckland.
Did you? Really?
Yeah.
Why? Were they that hard up?
Well, apparently they were,
yeah.
Well, I got contacted by this guy who later ended up working for me in London, funnily enough, but he was the editor of a paper out there called the Auckland Sun, and they'd started it up to be the rival to the kind of, the old fashioned existing thing. And I used to write this kind of showbiz column from New York for them.
Really? Yeah. Fantastic. Well
You're
done.
Not interested at all in that story, Sorry, let's get back to you.
Hang on, I don't want to leave this the importance of women alone. Now, when I was a newspaper boy, you see, the emotional kindness of women wrecked my career as a newspaper boy, because I came in after doing like 3 rounds on a Friday when the Cheshire Observer and the Chester Chronicle was delivered, big, huge weekly newspapers, broke your back, you know what I mean? And I came in after doing 3 rounds, and I was soaked. It was absolutely pouring down with rain, So my mum said, go into the outhouse and take those wet clothes off.
The outhouse?
We had like a wash house. Like a wash house,
How appalling.
No. That's
no wonder you're now such a snob.
No. This is the way people lived in those days. My mother had a mangle
from
in
the
there.
Hovis advert.
No, well, it was a bit like that. My mother had a mangle, and she used to put the clothes through the mangle, and the water used to run out.
You threw it.
He threw it. And I was down there, and I came back in, and then the next day I went back into work. It was Saturday, just normal Saturday morning delivery, and I was given the boot. And I said, what have I done? And they said, you wouldn't come out yesterday. There's this 4th round that had to be done. And I said...
Oh, what, so you didn't do it?
Well, they rang my mum while I was in the outhouse taking the wet clothes off.
Right.
And she said, no, he's not coming out again. He's been up since 4:30 this morning.
Right.
He's done 3 rounds. He's exhausted. His clothes are all wet. I'm not letting him come out. I got the boot because of my mother's emotional, umbrella over me.
And that's probably why now you've been forever scarred by it.
Maybe.
And now you won't stop working. You won't take a holiday.
Well, it's not...
That's the real reason you won't take a holiday.
No, I don't think it's anything to do with that. But, when you look at women like, for instance, Hillary Clinton, would you say Hillary Clinton was more important to the relationship with Bill than Bill?
No.
I would.
Well, there we are then. We are the 2 mics. This is TalkSport.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
This is TalkSport. We are the 2 mics. You spent an awful lot of time fiddling with your phone this morning.
Well,
you're sending out more alleged pictures of me.
I'm
not even sure that is a picture of me.
Of course it is a picture of you, and it looks like it's taken from a satellite. I just wonder, you wonder what, Mike, sometimes, and I'm not being ridiculous here, whenever there are Russians around, there's a very high chance that you're being spied on.
Really?
Because, well, it's in the DNA of Russians to spy upon people, isn't it? It has been for 70 years.
So all these people that I was on holiday with were actually all working... Well, have you got some kind of, James Bond obsession?
No.
They were all working for Spectre, were they?
I bet you... No, of course they weren't working for Spectre, you fool. It wasn't called Spectre, it was called Schmersh or something, wasn't it?
Schmersh?
Spectre was the rebel organisation, and if you remember, in From Russia with Love, didn't Rosa Klebb, defect from the Russians to join Spectre?
I can't remember.
She did, definitely.
But you've already proved yourself not to be an
And that was
expert
based
on
in
James
Istanbul
Bond.
as well. Why about that?
Well, there we are. There's a certain synergy about that.
Anyway, what I was going to say? I was going to say something there. Well, what I'm going to say now is I put that picture out of you, and there's been a... What are you laughing at?
What I'm going to say now? You don't have to say what you're going to say now.
There's been
Just
a
say
fantastic reaction. First of all, the caption I put on the picture, folks, if you haven't seen the picture, it shows old MG in a pair of blue swimming trunks, revoltingly overweight, but spread out, with his arms and legs like a starfish. And the caption I put on it was...
If it is me, I did occasionally float like that in the sea.
Right, well, it is you. And the caption was, is this a starfish or is it old fatso, also known as IROMG, that's your Twitter name, on holiday, floating around in the Medi after lunchtime pina coladas.
In the Medi?
Well, it's the Mediterranean, isn't it?
Oh, so you've conceded it's the Mediterranean now,
Part of the Mediterranean.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, and some of the responses are pretty predictable. Like, for instance, John O'Brien says, lucky you weren't harpooned, mate. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh, that's a good one.
We have that one quite successfully. But it says here from Adrian... oh no! Actually, this guy's called himself Adrian Durham's Brain, so he must be a fan of Adrian, I suppose.
Yeah, that's obviously not his name, then, is it?
No, of course it's not. But he says Mike Parry's healthier looking and more successful younger brother. That's what MG looks like floating around in the river. That's not very happy. Right? It says here, looks like he's been moonbathing. What's moonbathing?
I've no idea. Bathing in the moon.
Bathing?
Actually, there was an amazing moon one of the nights that I was there.
Oh yes,
it was actually red. I was going to ask you about this because
what, like blood red orange?
Yeah, the subject came up because the previous night it was quite low in the sky.
Right.
Actually, you watched it rise over the horizon, and it came up as a yellow, kind of almost like a harvest type moon.
Right.
But I thought, being an expert on these matters, I would ask you how it would be a red moon. How would it be red?
Well, I'll tell you that in a minute. I want to finish reading these out because these are interesting. It looks like you've been moonbathing. Another one says, a bit harsh to put that picture out in the first place. That comes from Pepe. Another one from a guy called Brain Cells. He says, it's amazing the inflatables they can manufacture these days. That's clearly what that is.
Very funny.
So people think you're an inflatable. Another one here, it says...
Well, it's better than being a deflatable.
And it says, Mike, this is not a good thing at all. Something or someone floating around like that in the ocean is quite scary. In fact, it's creepy, OK? Another one says, like a quilt-sized piece of tripe floating in the water. That comes from Pepe again, who seems to be quite obsessed by you. And then another one here, which says, that's about Mario Balotelli. Another one here, again, another one from Sean. Hopefully, no Japanese ships about, OK? So we all know what that one means, OK? Another one here. It says from Tim. It says, you seem to have quite a big lunchbox. I think what he means is, Mike, that you look gross,
Is
OK?
that, you think that may well be what he means.
Yeah, that's exactly what he means. There's another one here saying, what's the bottle for? Do you have a bottle in your hand?
No.
Oh, I don't know what that is then. Right, well, anyway, there we go. So that's a few of the responses from that, OK?
Yeah, you should also send them to the new Twitter address, which is at the 2 mics, which is now up and running, and it will be where we will send most of our social media activity, because we'll also be telling people about the show that we're doing that you've set up in a couple of weeks' time, right?
Definitely. 2 weeks tonight, in fact.
Indefinitely.
No, definitely. I was going to say... in order to let our listeners know, definitely.
Okay.
But I just did the in and the definitely, and it came out as indefinitely, but it's not indefinitely.
Now, the other thing that I want to take up with you is one of the things, because I wasn't...
I want to take it up with you. You're talking about the Bow Wow.
The what?
The dog.
The dog,
Yeah.
Because while I was away, you were accusing me of abandoning the dog.
Right, well, that's funny. That's
which
funny.
Was absolutely and utterly...
Stephen Bradshaw, Cool Stephen is his name, at Cool Stephen. To the 2 mics. Hi, guys. Great to hear from you. The hours are flying by. Brilliant, lads. But I do want to know the truth. Did IROMG, that's your Twitter address, leave his dog on somebody's doorstep?
No.
And the answer is you did.
No, the answer
yes,
is
you
not.
did.
No, I did
you
that.
left
The
it on our producer's doorstep and you pushed off to Turkey. Admit it.
No, it's not true.
Admit it.
It's not true. I took counsel on what I would do with the dog, right? And the best thing to do with the dog when you go on holiday is, one...
is abandon it in your
find
case.
somebody that knows about dogs who can look after it for you and is willing to look after it, is able to look after it. Some people put their dogs in kennels, right?
Yep.
And that's a very, very bad idea, because
Yeah,
when you put
I
your
agree
dog
that's a bad
in
idea.
Kennel, all it does
Frightens
is
the
it sits
poor
there.
dog.
Yeah, it sits there for 2 weeks. It doesn't get any exercise, and it just stares out of a cage basically for the whole thing.
And gets
Now-
intimidated by other dogs.
Exactly right.
Mm.
So it'd be completely wrong for me to do that. And having had a dog before, and you've already, of course, told us that you've never had a dog, so you don't really know anything about this. But to put out these kind of spurious
I know about
accusations,
dog behaviour.
no, but people who have dogs get very upset about it. And I was getting all sorts of hate mail from people saying,
Yep.
"How could you do this to your dog? It's a disgrace.
Yep.
How awful could you be?"
Yep.
And I didn't do any of those things. And in fact, when this show is over, I shall be going to said producers.
So you haven't bothered picking the dog up yet?
The dog, no.
Been
because
home for a whole day.
well, I was
home
home
for a
I
whole
got
day.
home at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was a bit inconvenient to go and turn up on somebody's doorstep and say, "Can I have the dog, please?"
Honestly, I become speechless sometimes. At
Well,
some of
if
the
you
things.
were of any use to me whatsoever, I could have got you to pick up the dog and deliver it to me when I got home.
Why on earth would I do that?
Because you're supposed to be my colleague, you're supposed to be my workmate.
I can't be driving all over the home counties, picking up dogs and
Well,
delivering
you
them
weren't
to
doing
homes.
anything else, were you?
Oh, no, apart from organising, our first ever live floor show at a
Oh, okay.
theatre. It's
Floor
taken
show?
2 weeks of intense negotiations,
Do we have to wear a dinner jacket?
No, I'm doing dinner jackets, but I have to speak to agents, I have to speak to thespians, I have to speak
So
to
you just made it up about the dog, in other words?
entrepreneurs. Sorry,
So you
what?
just made it up to make me look bad about the dog?
No, I didn't make anything up. The truth of the matter is, you went off to Turkey, left your dog with a load of strangers.
No, we're not
You have
strangers.
no idea what mental condition the dog is in when you
I
go and
have
pick
exactly.
it up.
In fact, we were
What will
having
you do,
regular,
by the way? What
we
will you
have
do?
regular daily updates of the dog.
What will
with
you do?
pictures.
So you go back, you knock on the door like this. This is old Mike Graham here, knocking on the door. Hello, and somebody answers the door. Hello.
Well, I won't have to do that
Hang on,
because
hang on.
I'll have the guy with me
Hang
who
on,
has a
hang
key
on.
to the door.
I've come to collect my dog, and they go and bring the dog, and the dog comes round the corner, looks at you, and has a completely indifferent look on its face.
Well, it won't have.
How long did you have the dog before you abandoned it?
About 6 months.
Well, you see, that's not long enough to bond with a dog.
And you've never had a dog.
That dog will
Can you
not.
just tell us how long you've had a dog for?
That dog will not even recognise you. I can tell you. Do you know that dogs do have face recognition
Yes,
sensories
they
in
do.
their brain and all that?
Yeah.
Because that's how they recognise people. Because they can't speak, because they can't say hello. They have to recognise you by the look of your face. And that dog, and I know this for a fact. That dog could easily have forgotten what you look like by now.
Could easily.
You might have to
So it's not
rebuild.
certainty then.
You might have to rebuild the whole of your relationship with your
Rubbish.
dog all over again.
You know nothing about dogs.
I know things that I read. I know that I do study these things. Canine behaviour is not foreign to me.
Unbelievable.
If you
There was
understand
a
what I
story
mean.
the other day about a dog that fainted because he hadn't seen his owner for 2 years, and when the owner finally appeared, the dog actually passed out.
That's terrible. That poor dog. There was another
well,
one.
that's not going to happen to my. It's not going to happen to my
There
dog.
was another one while you were away about a dog that turned up after 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years. You see that story?
No. I've been on holiday.
Yeah, these people lived in somewhere like Scotland.
One of those far away
Yeah,
places.
somebody in like the home counties rings up and says, is it possible that you? And how did all this come about? And through some very
Can you not explain the story slightly better than that?
through
Rather
some
than say somebody rang up
That's right,
and how
yeah.
did all this come
through
about?
some very bizarre connection, they managed to trace the original owner of the dog, and they said it can't be our dog. Our dog's dead. It died like years ago.
Right.
And they said, well,
Did it not have a name tag?
no, it was something else. I don't know what it was. Was it? I think the dog had been reported missing, and I think it came up in a file. That looks like the missing dog, and somebody spotted it, and a very bizarre set of circumstances. But they got it back after
Dogs
12
are
years.
amazing creatures. I mean, they can
Incredible.
remember many things over a long period of time.
What always-
And having been away from this particular dog that I have
Yeah.
for 2 weeks is not going to make him forget who I am.
What always breaks my heart is when you read about, these ghastly people who actually abandon dogs.
Yeah.
So they drive up onto the moors and they just throw the dog out and say,
Shocking behaviour.
yeah, I'm sorry, we can't afford to feed you anymore. And then 3 days later, they hear a scratching on the door and the dog's walked 50 miles.
Yeah.
And its paws are all bleeding and all that, but it managed to get it. So, I mean, how does a dog navigate its way home from a location it's never been to before in its
because
life?
they have senses that we
is
don't have.
incredible. Just imagine if man could acquire that sort of sensory perception.
Yeah.
Why don't we, examine dogs' brains, like scientists, get them and find out the navigatory radar bit of a dog's brain and put it in a human brain?
Well, cats have it as well, don't they?
Do cats have it as well?
Yeah, you hear stories of cats
Yeah, you
finding
do
their
actually.
way home.
In fact, you even hear about dogs getting on trains to get home. There's been dogs who literally get on trains and go home.
So
Now,
they obviously do speak English.
so it's not mad, is it, to suggest? It's not mad to suggest that there is something in the brain of a dog and a cat that you can that is far superior to the human brain.
It's called animal instinct, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, but it's far superior to the human brain. So what I'm saying is, imagine in a battlefield, if you got, like, shell-shocked and disoriented and all that, and if there was something in your head which said, don't worry, you can get back to base because you will find it, it would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, but you'd probably get shot on the way back, wouldn't
And
you?
also, all these people who say, I'm just going for a quick walk when they're in the outback in Australia, but then take a wrong turn and then, they find themselves 30 miles, never seen again, they'd be able to get back home. I mean, it's amazing stuff. The other amazing thing about dogs, which I find absolutely incredible, and God knows why we haven't taken this out of a dog's brain and put it into a human brain, dogs can smell disease in a human.
Yeah, you told us this before.
They can smell cancer. Now, I mean, surely...
We had this ludicrous conversation just before I went away when you said it would be great if you could have a dog at home. Remember, you were going to rent a dog, which I'm sure you're not qualified to do, given the way you're going
Of course
on here.
Of course I am.
And you were talking about how it would be great because the dog would be able to spot if you were about to lapse into an alcoholic coma.
That's true. That's absolutely true. It wouldn't have to be alcoholic. It could be anything else. But the point is, why can't scientists...
They can't ring anybody and tell them.
Why can't scientists extract those extraordinary powers that dogs have in their brains to spot diseases and to be able to navigate their way home from, like tens of, like 50, 60 miles away?
Why can't... That's what we've got sat-navs for, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you could put it in the human brain, it would be amazing. I just don't know why we can't do it. I think we should be able to do it. I think scientists should have reached that stage by now, and I'm disappointed with mankind that we haven't.
Yeah, I'm disappointed with a lot of things over the course of time, but we'll take some of your calls coming up in the next hour. 08717 22 3344. The transfer circus is going to be upon us. We might have a look at doing this little quiz for you as well, but we shall see. We've got a quiz on English literature.
Well, that suits me. I took English literature at A-level and got a top mark.
Yeah, well, it's now GCSE
so I haven't got a problem
time.
with that.
Well, it's GCSE time, of course, and they're now saying that lots of girls are doing lots of
There's very
better
few
than lots of
classical
boys.
books I haven't read.
You said you read a book for half an hour, then you have to pick up another book and read it.
I can read a book in half an hour almost.
Really?
Yeah.
Almost?
Yeah, almost.
How long did it take you
David
to
Copperfield, that took me about 2.5 hours. What are you laughing at?
Was it like the shortened version? What about War and Peace? How long did it take you to read War and Peace?
It was difficult to get through War and Peace.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
The worst
you
one
just
was,
read the war bit, presumably.
The worst one was Tolkien's book. The big
the
thick
Hobbit?
one, The Hobbit.
Well, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. No, I think it was The Hobbit.
You can't read that in half an hour.
No, you can't.
We'll find out about Porky's incredible power of reading because he says that he's an expert in English literature. We'll find out very, very soon. We'll have the transfer circus. We'll also have a look at what's going on some of the back pages as well. Lots and lots of stories still surrounding the Malky Mackay situation. We'll get to that. Some very, very sad-looking pictures of Paul Gascoigne as well. Coming up right now, though, it's almost 3 o'clock. Time for the news. This is Talk Sport. I'm Mike Graham. Mike Parry is here with me. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out. I'm fascinated by your admission just before the news there of how quickly you can read. David Copperfield, for example, is around about 1,000 pages long.
Rubbish.
It is
rubbish. It's one of the thinnest and narrowest of Charles Dickens books. And I remember reading it when I was about 11.
Did you read like the Janet and John version?
No. I read it in an afternoon. It was easy. No problem at all. So,
well, if you read that book, say, for example, in 2.5 hours, that would mean you were reading about 8 pages a minute.
No, that's
Nobody
rubbish.
can read that fast.
No. You've got to remember, my brain can absorb tremendous amounts of information. That's why, Mike, I can work so successfully with you on a show like this, because wherever you fall short, I'm able to plug the gap. And that's because I have absorbed tremendous amounts of information over the years.
In truth, there is definitely a training that you go through as a journalist, which we both did, which means that you can read quite quickly. And for me, anyway, I can always remember something that I've read. As long as I've read it, it sticks in my head. Like, I'm very good at if I read a statistical number, for example, I will know precisely, what that figure was, and it will stick with me until I forget it, which might be a few days later.
What sort of statistical number are you talking about?
For example, if I read a piece in the paper that says something like, there were 101,000 operations last year which were not completed by the NHS, that figure of 101,000.
Well, a useless statistic that is to carry around in your head.
Well, because it's something, if you're talking about operations in the NHS and the ones that they're going to
I'll tell you what, let's go for a quick drink. Yeah, I'll have a pint and a bit of thanks. What should we talk about now? Oh, let's talk about how many operations haven't been completed in, in Guy's Hospital across the road this week. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, it can sometimes come in handy if you're
I don't go with it for a drink with you very often.
There's another reason for that as well.
Of the year.
Because it costs a fortune if I go drinking with you. But one of the reasons
why is that then?
Well, because of the amount you consume.
I see, we're on that one, are we? Like, not spending 2 weeks in Turkey, literally necking free mojitos and pina coladas.
I'll tell you what,
day.
I'll take you to a cocktail bar one of these days and I'll get you a mojito. You might quite like it.
You'll take me to a cocktail bar. I've been to all the best cocktail bars in the metropolis, mate. I might take you to one if they let you in.
What's your favourite bar in the metropolis then?
The Wolsey.
The Wolsey?
Yeah, the Wolsey.
Good place for breakfast. It's not really a good place for a drink.
Well, I don't agree with you. To me, it's a great cocktail bar. Okay.
All right. Well, we'll talk some more about that.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some of the back pages at the moment because an awful lot of them are still going on this remarkable story about Malky Mackay.
Well, we've got to start with
Crystal
that.
Palace, the text messages, this statement from the LMA, and I suppose what you might describe as the definition of friendly banter.
Yeah, I mean, this story was broken by the Daily Mail yesterday. Yeah. You and I are newspaper journalists by birth, and so we have to say an outstanding piece of journalism. They've clearly been on the case for a long time, weeks if not months, as this remarkable case unfolded. Mr Tan, the owner of Cardiff City, was the initiator of it because he felt that he had a grievance with his former manager, Malky Mackay, over allegations of club revenues.
Impropriety and all that.
Well, which Mr Tam wanted to make sure had been spent properly. So he ordered an investigation, and during the course of the investigation, which involved the investigators acquiring court orders to be able to search the homes of people involved, including the homes of Malky Mackay, we understand from the report in the Daily Mail, the texts which are now the subject of an enormous focal point in football, for want of a better word.
Well, an investigation as well by the FA now, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, what I'm saying is that the texts which have emerged came out of investigation about another subject.
Yeah.
The subject being investigated was, had money been misappropriated from Cardiff City? That was an allegation which Mr Tan was investigating, OK?
And that was how he gained access to all these emails and all these text messages in the first place.
Absolutely, because he got a court order and able to access the information. During the course of sifting through that information, these texts, which have been deemed to be extremely offensive and which are extremely offensive, there's a dispute over who wrote them and why and where and all that at the moment, but they are extremely offensive texts. And Malky Mackay then goes to the LMA, the League Managers Association, and asked for their assistance in preparing a response. Now, the way the story's moved on now is that response is now being very, very widely criticised.
Well, it's a strange
from
response, isn't it?
many sections of society, including inside and outside football.
Yeah, because interestingly enough, and this is a statement, this is from The Guardian, the LMA says this: in the course of a search by the club in early 2014 of 10,000 private text messages sent to and from another member of staff during Mr Mackay's employment at Cardiff in relation to other matters, it emerged that Malky had, it seems, sent a couple of one-line texts that were, with the benefit of hindsight, very regrettable and disrespectful of other cultures. That's one of the things. They make a big thing as well of this business of they were private texts, because I know when this whole thing blew up first, a lot of fans of both Cardiff and Norwich and other clubs that Malky Mackay had been associated with said, you know, why on earth were these private texts of any interest to Vincent Tan, or why were they being looked at? If it's a company phone, and you'll know this as we've seen it in past cases, if it's a company phone and you're talking about company business, it's not a private text anymore. It never was.
Well, I don't know whether it was a private phone or not. I don't know whether it was his own email machine or anything. But you're absolutely right. Just to read this, bring people up to date on it, this is back of the Daily Mail. They broke the story yesterday. An amazing day of drama sparked by Sportsmail's investigation into allegations of racist, sexist and homophobic texts ended last night with a public apology from Malky Mackay and the resignation of Crystal Palace sporting director Ian Moody, because it was supposed to be between those two men these texts were exchanged, OK? Mackay's apology still managed to spark outrage after describing two racist text messages, which he now admits he sent as, quotes, friendly text message banter. Despite
He's not going to be able to stick with that position.
I don't think so. Despite Mr Mackay's attempt to draw a line under the affair, the FA confirmed last night that they had launched an, excuse me, because I'm turning the page here, investigation following...
What do you think it could have been, the next word? What was it likely to be?
Well, I want to make absolutely sure, don't I? Following receipt of evidence from Cardiff City's lawyers, the text exchanges outlined in Sportsman's exclusive report today date back to when Mr Mackay and Moody worked as manager and head of recruitment at Cardiff City, and so it goes on. But it is quite astonishing.
And we should also say that the other event that happened yesterday, of course, was that the other guy involved in this, Mr Moody.
Yes.
He quit Crystal Palace, resigned.
I just said that in reading the report. I said in which Mr Moody stood down as sporting director of Crystal Palace, OK? trouble with you is you don't listen, and I'm trying to tell you exactly what's going on.
I couldn't hear because you were turning the page.
No. Well, the millions of listeners who are still tuned in, listen to the show, they all listened and heard. I know that because we get their feedback later and I can predict it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is astonishing stuff. Perhaps, Mike, we should go to the front page of some of the papers because, of course, we haven't really given our listeners the benefit yet of the Paul Gascoigne situation, which is horrendous. I mean, it's very difficult to be shocked by pictures and reports of Paul Gascoigne's behaviour these days because, sadly, he has fallen to such a low that it's becoming a little routine. But the pictures...
It hasn't been for a while, though. We haven't seen much. I mean, funnily enough, it was only earlier on in the evening yesterday. I was listening to Kick-Off and Jim Proudfoot was talking to a guy down in Dorset, in Bournemouth, where it seemed that a story had emerged that this guy who runs a taxi driving business had hired Paul Gascoigne and was trying to let him come and play football for this kind of amateur team.
It's very odd.
And it was it was only a few hours ago, and then suddenly here's more pictures of him in the papers.
Yeah, this is a strange one because my family lived down in Bournemouth and we knew that he was living in a place called Boscombe, OK? Now, Bournemouth and Boscombe are neighbouring resorts on that part of the coast.
Isn't it Boscombe?
It's Boscombe. And it's famous for the fact that the local council spent millions of pounds putting a false shelf underneath the sea to try and create a surf wave to get surfers from Cornwall
they all go to Newquay, don't they?
Yeah, that's right, to come from there and go here. And this has...
They actually built a shelf.
Well, what they did is they dumped huge bags of something, aggregates or something, sand or something, on this, maybe half a mile out or a few hundred yards out. Yeah. And the whole idea was the sea would hit this and build up to a wave, which then come in and the surf. It never worked. Right. And it's a terrible white elephant.
That's amazingly ridiculous, isn't it?
It is ridiculous, yeah. And it's a huge talking point in that part of the world. Now, that's only to give you the sort of picture of the bay, because Boscombe is up on the hill. And Gazza definitely lived in an apartment, flat as we call it in this country, with a balcony overlooking the sea. Right. And I know that because I know exactly, in fact, funny enough, I invest in property in that part of the coast, and we've got one along there, and that's how we know where he lived. But what is very interesting about these reports, and they're the most ghastly pictures I've ever seen.
He doesn't look well, does he?
Explain to our listeners, he looks like... sometimes you see a picture of somebody who takes a medicine or something, and they get a terrible allergic reaction, and it means that their eyes literally close, they go gaunt in the face, but this is worse than that. He hasn't taken an allergic pill, and there's a Dr. Carol Cooper here saying, this man looks haggard and badly wrinkled, extremely puffy in the face. Puffiness is due to fluid retention. That could be kidney or liver failure, given his alcoholism. Liver failure, you'd expect to see fluid retention elsewhere, and his legs look normal, so it may not be that. He's had Botox injections by the look of it, but they don't last long. It could even be he's had a facelift, which has not worked, as his face is quite expressionless. Alcoholics
just
often...
looks very, very old for somebody who's only 47.
Well, they just come to that. Alcoholics often look older because they tend not to eat properly. Their body is not just dealing with alcohol, but it is probably dealing with malnutrition. Horrendous pictures. But the point I was going to make was, Mike, the Boscombe situation was quite contained. Was quite contained. He lived there and seemed to have got his life unsteady. But he was found slumped in the street in a place called Sandbanks. Now, Sandbanks...
Home of Harry Redknapp.
Absolutely right. And you just wonder, I mean, mad theory in my head, was he walking to try and find Harry or something? Yeah. I don't know. Everybody knows that Harry lives in Sandbanks. It's one of the most exclusive enclaves in this country. Yeah. And
I think the house next door to him was up for sale for about 7 million or 17 million or something like that.
I think just the plot was, never mind the house, you know what I mean? You build a house on it worth 3 times that or something like that. But what I'm saying is, I don't understand this report. This is on the front of the Mirror. It said, Gazza 47 faces eviction from his luxury flat after complaints from neighbours in Poole, Dorset. And he collapsed outside clutching a bottle of gin. Well, he must have moved then from Boscombe. But Boscombe and Poole are different places. And if he's renting a flat in Sandbanks, then he's paying an awful lot of money for it.
Yeah, he certainly is. Very sad pictures indeed.
Very sad, very, very sad.
Some of the other stories on the back pages regarding Mario Balotelli, of course, and various other transfer stories coming up in the transfer circus. Coming up next, though, we're going to find out why Porky Parry is thinking about getting rid of some of the clothes in his wardrobe. This is TalkSport.
Yeah.
It will make no
won't break him, so he's got to buy the best, 'cause he's a dedicated follower of fashion. And when he does his little round...
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. He's Mike Parry, and the man that can read David Copperfield in just one afternoon. We will examine that.
I did.
Well, we'll be having a quiz for you later on.
That's fine.
English literature.
Suits me.
I will not be responsible, as ever, for compiling the questions, so please don't have a go at me for trying to set you up.
Oh, but you have a lot of influence on them.
I have no influence
You
on it.
deliberately tell the people who set them, and those are boys out there making their way in life and trying to make their careers, great young researchers, who you then corrupt the minds of to get them to be brutally, invasive of my intelligence.
Right. Well, while we're talking about your intelligence, before we talk about Victoria Beckham, who's putting a load of her frocks up for sale, and talking about what's in your wardrobe and that kind of thing, we've got a call from Dave, who's down in Bournemouth, because you were pronouncing Boscombe wrongly, I believe. Tell us how you think you should pronounce it.
It's Boscombe.
Boscombe. Well, let's talk to Dave, who's a local. Dave, in Bournemouth, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Dave.
I've been to Alfracombe, but never to Boscombe.
Oh, where have you been then?
It's Boscombe.
Boscombe, as I suggested.
It's spelt Boscombe. It's Boscombe. It's spelt the same as Alfracombe, therefore it's Boscombe.
But, Mr. Parry, you've got this penchant for saying everything in phonetics. You're not living in America now, and phonetics is fine in America, but...
Dave, have you ever heard me pronounce Edinburgh as Edinburgh? No, of course you haven't.
I'm sure you have.
Because I don't use phonetics at all. I mean, look, how long have you been in Bournemouth, Dave? You don't sound like a Bournemouth man to me.
25 years.
25 years. All right, so you're not a Bournemouth man. You weren't born there then?
I came here when I was 7.
Oh, when you were 7. So you're only 32 now?
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Have you lost any teeth, Dave? Because you sound older than 32, quite seriously. If you don't mind me saying.
Listen, Dave is not rung up here to be abused by you, because you've got somebody else wrong.
No, Dave. I mean, are you seriously 32?
Correct.
Right, OK, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because I'm that sort of guy, right? Now, the point is, my family lived down in Bournemouth.
How long have they lived there?
About that amount of time,
so
about 25 years.
And how do they say Boscombe?
And whenever I go along, I always say, I tell you what, let's go for a walk along the cliffs and we'll walk down to Boscombe. And nobody has ever picked me up on it except you.
It's complete and utter trite you're talking, I'm sorry.
Well, I find that
really
rather offensive.
I mean, without being serious about this, if you take your tongue out your cheek and just listen for one moment, it's Boscombe.
OK, you say it's Boscombe.
Anybody from Bournemouth will tell you.
OK. Now then,
maybe the reason that your family don't correct you is because they're frightened of you.
No.
Because you're going to fly into a rage if they try and correct you.
Am I right about this fiasco of dumping all these sandbags in the sea and trying to create a wave?
No.
What do you mean, no? What do you mean, no? You've been walking around in a daze for the last 10 years.
No, it was a company a few years ago were given the rights to make false waves at Boscombe.
There you go. Right.
So they didn't.
It cost a lot of money, but they weren't backed. It was a little bit more. It was different than that. It was an American company who came over here and had this new technology.
So it wasn't public money they spent.
It was.
Yeah, it was public money.
It was public money. So he was right about that then.
And Dave, it was bags. I've seen them. I mean, that's what they did. They tried to create a false barrier reef, so to speak.
So where are the bags now then?
They're still there, but they just don't cause a wave. Now, Dave, if you're a local man as well, you must take an interest in the movements of Paul Gascoigne, one of our greatest ever footballers. What do you know about the latest very sorry reports about him having, unfortunately, gone wayward again?
Well, the company you were talking about, the taxi company, I won't mention them, obviously, but I use them a lot, and I was talking to one of their drivers recently, and he picks them up on a regular basis, and he was saying that he was dry. He's been without drink for 3 or 4 months, but obviously it's like everything else, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, and obviously he's fallen off the wagon.
I'm afraid that's the case. I find it odd that he's moved to Sandbanks, because that is a very exclusive enclave, isn't it?
Well, I don't know whether he's moved to Sandbanks. That's just what the report says. That's where he was found.
Yeah, but it said outside his home. He's got an exclusive flat now in Sandbanks.
Well, it could be that somebody's providing him with that.
It could well be.
Listen, Dave, as ever, I appreciate you correcting Mr. Parry's pronunciation, because it is one of those things that often comes up. That your pronunciation of names is very often wrong.
It's Boscombe.
OK, well, that's very kind of you, Dave. Thanks very much indeed for calling in. I very much appreciate your contribution.
Well, it's like Derek.
So how come Alfred Raccoon is spelt the same way?
Take your tongue out your cheek and just listen for one moment. It's Boscombe.
You should know, as a student of the English language, which you claim to be, that there are many, many pronunciations of words which are spelt the same, but the pronunciations are actually different.
Well, give me one.
Well, I could give you many examples.
Go on, then. Give me one.
Well, you want me to give you a place name, or do you want me to just give you a word?
Stop stalling and give me one.
Well, how about through and borough, for example? Both end in the same O-U-G-H, but are pronounced completely different.
But in borough, there's an O before the R. In through, there isn't.
T-H-R-O-U-G-H, right?
Yeah, but there's no O before. It's not thorough, because when it becomes thorough is pronounced the same as borough.
What about enough?
No, hang on. Thorough and borough are pronounced the same, right?
No, I'm talking about through.
Well, through's not pronounced the same.
It's the end of the word that's different.
Not at all.
It's nothing to do with the word, the O before the R.
Utter drivel. Let's move on anyway.
O-U-G-H, right, is pronounced how in your world?
Well, if it's a T in front of it, tough.
Right. And
if it's a B in front of it, buff.
And if there's a T-H-R in front of it?
That's a different word altogether.
It's the same ending, though.
It's not the same ending because it's not the same pre-syllable arrangement as the other word you talked about.
Well, if there's a B in front of it.
I thought you wanted to talk about clothes.
I do.
Right, let's talk about clothes.
You want to give up on this now?
No, I'm not giving up on this at all. I just don't want to drive our audience to distraction with your boring, monotonous, let's pile into Porky's, pronunciation problems, which I haven't got.
You haven't got. Right. What is it, Ilfracombe and Boscombe?
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much.
Boscombe.
There we are. I think that's the definitive version of that. Now, the story in the papers the other day about Victoria Beckham, who is, of course, known as Posh, and they're saying that up for sale is Victoria's Posh Frocks, and she's basically saying she's got something like 800 items which are all going to be sold in aid of charity.
Unbelievable.
Now, I'm a great fan of Mrs. Beckham.
Yes, so am I.
And I know that lots of people give her a hard time.
No, I don't.
But she's going to sell these at auction for charity, which I think is a great thing to do. But it got me thinking about your wardrobe. I don't know why, because the relationship or the sort of the similarity between you and Posh Spice is about as far away from anything that I can think of.
I don't agree.
But you are always wearing the same clothes, because whenever you come into the studio here, you're always wearing a dark shirt and either those really stupid-looking cut-off shorts and or long trousers.
How can they be the same clothes then? You've got long trousers, you've got shorts, dark shirts,
outfits.
light shirts.
Well, you've got two outfits.
Rubbish.
And whenever you wear a suit, you always wear the same suit.
No,
which has got the very, very long jacket. And the sort of trousers that are a bit too long for you.
No, it's rubbish, Mike. Honestly, you're painting a picture here which is completely erroneous and mischievous, right? For instance, I live in two homes, right?
Yeah.
So if I buy anything, I buy two of them.
Right.
So you may confuse the fact that I've come here from one of my homes or maybe come from the other.
Uh-huh.
Now, all the, best people in the world, international businessmen, travellers...
well, you were saying earlier today
that
Bill Shankly bought a suit once every 2 years.
Yeah, whatever.
Which I think is quite frequent. I mean, how often do you buy a suit?
I haven't bought a suit for a couple of years because I don't wear a lot of suits now, but I have got 30 suits.
30?
And they're all immaculate, and they're all black, and they're all pressed and left in my wardrobe.
I've never seen you in a black suit. You've got a blue suit.
No. I've only got black suits.
Well, the last time I saw you in a suit, it was blue.
No, it wasn't. It was black.
We went to the Tottenham game in it.
It was black.
It was not black.
It was black. I haven't got any blue suits. I threw all my blue suits out. I've only got black suits.
I can't. I'm going to look because it was the day we met Tim Sherwood and you called him Steve. But the picture of you, unfortunately, is you wearing a coat.
You know the cover of Abbey Road, right? Ringo's black suit. All my suits are like that.
Well, this one was blue.
It wasn't, honestly. You've got the wrong colour. Anyway, look, let me tell you this. I know a businessman who's got 4 homes around the world, and every time his Chinese tailor turns up, and that could be in London, or it could be in Paris, or from Hong Kong, or it could be in New York, that Chinese tailor makes 4 of the suits that he wants, right? excuse me, measures him for a suit, says, right, that's great, I'll afford those. And then the suit is sent to the man's 4 homes. So he doesn't know anything about it, except the next time he's there...
Well, he sends him 4 copies of it.
No, he just sends out 4 suits.
Right.
So, he has staff at his home in the Loire Valley, he has staff at his home in London, in New York,
Loire.
and in...
Is that like Loire?
Loire?
Loire.
What are you talking about?
Loire Valley.
Have you never heard of the Loire Valley?
The Loire, yeah, but you said Loire, like Loire, the player.
No, I didn't. Anyway, we're talking about suits. So it means that the guy anywhere in the world can say, I think I'll wear that black suit of mine tonight, and he can go to his wardrobe and it's there.
Well, why
Now,
are
he
you
had
drawing a
nothing-
comparison between yourself and a multi-billionaire?
Because I've got the same. I've got similar suits.
You've got a tailor from Hong Kong, have you?
No, I've got a tailor from Hong Kong, mate. Or, mind you, could have. The guy comes to London often enough. You see adverts in the Evening Standard saying, come along, Mushy, for a suit and all that. Well, you can get 2 done at the same time, and then I could have 1 on the coast, and I could have 1 in Stockbroker,
this is about
Surrey.
all the clothes that you have that you don't wear.
Yeah, OK. One of these days, I might, for posterity, commit them to auction or something like that, or whatever.
Well, you think someone would actually want to buy them?
Well, they might.
Why don't you just give them to a charity shop?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about charity shops, to be honest. I get worried about charity shops. When you go past a charity shop and you see all this junk piled outside, right? And you do, every time you drive past one now.
Well, that's people that have left it there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They come in the middle of the night. And do you know what? People use charity shops now and the environments around charity shops as just an alternative to going down the council tip.
Yeah.
They just take all the junk and pile it on the pavement in front
that's
of the
because
charity
if you
shop.
ring the charity shop and say, would you like to come and take this? They say no.
Exactly. So people go, but they always have signs saying, please don't leave any stuff overnight. People just ignore it. I was in a pub once. I was at a charity shop.
Funnily enough.
Yeah, funnily enough. After it had closed, so it'd be like 5:30
Bingo!
or 6
the pub
o'clock.
had closed.
No, you fool. After the charity shop had closed. Stop trying to be, stop trying to wind me up.
I'm not.
And as I'm sitting there, this woman comes along in this 4x4, right, obviously from a very upper middle class home, brand new 4x4. And she was with her daughter, and they get out, and they open the back of the 4x4. And I'm on your own, they unloaded what must have been the contents of a new house that just moved into or something, and they piled it all up, and most of it was junk. There were some clothes, but there were teddy bears, suitcases. They literally just thought to themselves, just dump it all here. And so I don't use charity shops anymore, because I fear they might be full of junk that's been festering on the pavement. And,
whenever I take stuff to
the
the dump, actually, we're going to go in a minute, but whenever I take stuff to the dump, they've actually got a little section there which the guys at the dump will take things from you and go, we can maybe sell this, if it's an old bike or a set of golf clubs or something like that.
And who gets the money for that?
I think they do. It's not a charitable thing, but I mean, it's quite an efficient...
Sorry, when they? Do you mean the local authority or the individual guys?
The individual guys at the dump, yeah.
Well, they give you any money for it?
No, they just take it off you because you're dumping it. Yeah. But it seems like a nice little earner for them.
Seems like it.
That might be the way to go. This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 Mics. Coming up next, we're going to have a look at what's going on in the transfer market with Ben Fletcher. And now it's time for the transfer circus.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you. And I'm wondering what it is I should do.
Did you hear that laugh there?
What laugh?
Can you identify the person making this laugh?
What are you on about?
Can you hear that laugh?
I thought that was you or...
Ben. Ben Fletcher.
No, somebody keeps laughing in my head. It's not you,
Somebody
Ben.
keeps laughing in your head.
It's not Ben. Why has Ben moved chairs?
I think it's
I've just been
something
instructed to move chairs
okay.
by the producer of the
something
show.
to do with your trousers, I think.
No comment.
Can you not identify the voice? Come on, you're supposed to be an expert in this.
Now, look, we're supposed to be talking transfers,
Yes.
OK? So my mind is in transfer set.
Yeah, well, this is leading into transfers.
Well, I mean, it's some very, very obtuse clue. Go on, give me again. And you want me to tell you whose laugh that is?
I'll tell you what.
I've got a clue.
Play the man who makes that sound.
It's one chance more because you have the possibility, if you win, to play in the next Champions
It's
League.
not Roberto Martinez.
It's not Roberto
No.
Martinez.
No. It's old Pochettino, isn't it?
It is, Maurizio.
Because he's talking English for the first time. That's why I didn't recognise his voice. See? So that was a process of elimination. I know what all the foreign managers sound like when they're speaking English. Never heard him speak English before. Suddenly a voice in my earphones, speaking English, foreign manager, talking about big-time transfer deals.
So you think he's
process of elimination, got to be Pochettino.
All right, let's hear him laughing in English. Now let's hear him laughing in Spanish.
There you go, you see.
Can he laugh in German as well?
Don't be ridiculous. Now, come on, we've got Ben in the studio. Let's find out what's going on.
Yes, Ben.
Well, we can start with Tottenham if you like.
Let's do that. That was the point, you see. But unfortunately, it wasn't subtle enough for Mr. Parry. Anyway, off you go.
Well, we try and deal with it being as subtle as we can. Tottenham have rekindled their interest in £8 million rated Sevilla centre half Federico Fazio. 27-year-old Fazio.
Fazio?
Fazio.
Sounds like what you call me.
There you go. That'll be on Clips of the Week. 27 years of age, and if Spurs really do want to attack the top four this season or get anywhere near it, they're going to have to improve their centre halves.
They've got no chance of getting to the top four.
Well, they're going about it the right way, though, aren't they? They need to improve their centre halves, their general defence, because they're just they're so leaky, aren't they? Generally.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Mike?
Absolutely leaky. Yeah, I do.
What are you reading now?
Well, I'm trying to find out, really, what the big transfer news is going to be when we've stopped talking about why Spurs aren't going to get into the top four. That's all you seem to be saying all night. That's all you're saying all night. Spurs won't get in the top four. We had some guy on before who was a Spurs fan. All you said to him was Spurs won't get in the top four. I totally agree with you, but I think you've made the point now, OK?
OK.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we could talk about another team.
Another team that won't make the top four, Manchester United.
Manchester United.
And this, I think it's ridiculous, this £50 million link with Angel Di Maria.
Yeah.
If you're Angel Di Maria, you can choose between Manchester United or Paris Saint-Germain, the French champions, who apparently have pulled out of a deal.
Because they're saying it's not in their hands, aren't they? They're basically effectively saying because of financial fair play, they can't afford to sign the guy.
Yeah, I mean, Angel Di Maria's told Carlo Ancelotti he wants to leave. Yeah. You know, he's going to go to either United or Paris Saint-Germain. They're the only two clubs that appear to be interested in him or have
Could he not go to Manchester City?
Well, that would make things interesting, wouldn't it? And it's remarkable, really, how the power has shifted in Manchester from red to blue. But I just don't understand why Angel Di Maria would want to go to Manchester United.
No,
they're not going to finish. I don't think they're going to be playing Champions League football for 2-3 years.
Yeah, but if they were going to pay his wages, I mean, I suppose what we see now are these people like Falcao, who went to Monaco when they weren't in anything. You know, they were just hoping to get into the Champions League, which they now are.
But is Monaco not a little bit more glamorous than Manchester?
Well, I suppose
it's a smaller. No, it's not. No, because I mean, Manchester United is still a massive club.
Yeah,
and Monaco.
Well, Monaco's a more glamorous place than Manchester because it always rains in Manchester because of the position of the Pennine Hills.
Yeah, but if you're getting paid what Angel near the M63, if you're getting paid what Angel Di Maria's getting paid, you can have a place in Monaco. And you can jet into your games every
look,
week.
On the transfer thing, Paul Scholes, we all agree, had nothing to say when he played football, has got lots to say now. Now, listen to this, Ben. In the last week, Paul Scholes has said United should have bought Cesc Fabregas, Tony Cruz...
Agree.
Sami Khedira, Angel Di Maria, Xabi Alonso, Mats Hummels, Rafael Varane. Now, that's 7 players.
Yeah.
Are United going to sign any of them? You know, we've already discussed Di Maria.
Well, they're not going to sign Cesc Fabregas.
Well, this is what I mean. What is going on?
Has he gone mad?
Now, no. The point is, I want to tell you both what's going on at United. They haven't got the capacity to buy anything like those sort of players on the sort of money, because if you look at the structure of United, as illustrated by a very excellent piece by Tony Evans, the football editor of the Times, earlier this week, they have paid out £700 million in interest costs since the Glazers arrived. Yeah. They have nothing like the resources of Real Madrid, Barcelona or Bayern Munich because they are strapped by these financial payments, and the Glazers have said today they will be around for at least another 5 years, by which time Manchester United will be a club with the resources of a team like, for instance, Newcastle United.
Oh, I don't think that's true at all.
Well, how can it not be true?
Well, they've just signed a deal with Adidas for $750 million.
And who do you think is going to take most of that out of the club?
Well, they will probably take an awful lot of it out of the club. They have also said that if there is no Champions League football for 2 seasons, Adidas have said that they will actually pay them less money.
Yeah.
So that's true. But they will never be a club without resources. I mean, everywhere you go,
they will.
Around the world, and you were talking about that.
Ben will back me up. You look at the financial structure of the club, there is not enough money going into the available transfer budget each year to give United the buying power. £700 million since the Glazers arrived is the equivalent of being deprived the ability to buy a Ronaldo every summer. An £80 million player every summer has not been available to United because, and I've examined the financial structure of the club, they have simply not been able to raise the money and pay off the debt at the same time.
No, I get that, but they're never going to become a club that are short of money
They
just
are.
simply because of
They
the amount
are.
of money that they make.
They are.
Well, look at Liverpool in the 80s. I mean, and Paul, another thing that Paul Scholes has said, and he said it a few times in the pre-season, that he worries that they're going to be in the wilderness United. Because
Exactly.
they're not spending money.
They could be in the wilderness. I agree that they could be out of the top four for some time.
Yeah.
But they will never be a poor club.
Mike, they will. Because who's going to buy Manchester United? If the Glazers say we're
anyone
only around...
with the money will buy.
No, we're only around for 5 years, right? So what do they do then? After which they'll have milked the club for about £1 billion. That's the estimate. They'll have taken £1 billion, right? But then whoever comes to buy the club has to pay off the outstanding debt, which is still there.
And that's an alarmingly large sum of money.
Of course it is. They're not suddenly every year saying, oh, well, there's 100 off the debt. They're paying the interest on the debt.
Yeah. But if
so
you're
what
in
I'm
the
saying
business,
is that the debt will still be there.
No, I accept that, and I'm not disagreeing with the fact that the debt is a massive problem.
Yeah.
You're right about that. However, they will. I mean, the kind of people that buy football clubs like Manchester United are not too worried about stuff like that. If they found somebody that wanted to buy it, they would have the money. They would make the debt disappear. Say, for example, somebody from the Middle East came in, and they would want to own Manchester United not as a business concern, but because they wanted to own it.
Prestige.
I was just about to use that exact word, Mr. Parry, prestige. Yeah. But you know, how much longer can United sustain this world-leading status without Champions League football?
Absolutely right.
They're not in Europe this season, or next season, or the season after.
You're absolutely right.
Potentially.
And Ben, you're absolutely right, because if Saudi Arabia suddenly decided to get into the football business and the House of Saud said, right, what's the most glamorous available team in the world? Manchester United are not going to be that prestige market, to buy in 5 years' time if they are literally loitering in the mid-table of the Premier League with crowds which have dipped to 42,000, with no hope of getting in the Champions League. Everton, my club in the 1980s, were the top club in this country. We are now struggling to get back from
Everton
being that
were never
mediocre
the top club in the country.
Of course they were in the 1980s.
No, they never were.
Mate, are you mad? We were easily the top club in the country in the 80s. We kept winning the league championship. We would have gone into
How
the
many times did you win the league championship?
2 seasons out of 3, and in the middle season, when Gary Lineker scored 40 goals for us, we finished second.
And how long were the 80s?
By 1 point.
How long were the 80s?
The 80s lasted from 1980 to 1989.
Right.
But do Everton not have the record of the most consecutive charity shields? 4 in a row?
Yes,
Is that
that's
right?
absolutely right, yeah. And
go.
also...
That doesn't make them the top club.
And yes, they are the top club. And also, we held on to the league championship for the longest time ever because we won it in both 1914 and 1939. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
So, in a period of 9 years, Everton won the title twice. Is that what you're telling me?
What I'm trying to tell you...
Is that what you're telling me?
Is that...
So that makes them a top club?
Well, you name me any other.
That
name me any other team then that won 2 championships, came second.
Liverpool won
twice,
the title 6 years in the 80s.
Who won the FA Cup? Who won the European Cup Winners' Cup? What?
Liverpool won the title 6 years in the 80s.
I don't care what you're saying. You annoy me. You get on my nerves.
They won 2 FA Cups.
That's
4 League Cups as well.
We weren't talking about that.
It's a great foundation for a debate, isn't it? I don't care what you're saying.
I don't care what you're saying.
You annoy me.
No, I'm going to stick my fingers in my ears. I think we've established that Everton were not the top club of the 80s. This is Talk Sport. Shall we have another go at the transfer circus?
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you.
As enjoyable an exchange of ideas as that was, Mr. Ben Fletcher and Mr. Parry, I have to say we didn't really talk about very many transfers. So there are people eagerly awaiting the news from Ben.
Well,
that's very
sort of
kind.
hijacked the conversation there and started going banging on about Everton.
But Ben, it is the hardest thing to do, the transfer bit, because
you're always talking over him.
95% of the transfers we think are going to happen never happen, do they?
Well, the most important ones happen on the 31st of August, don't they? They're the big ones, and with 3 hours to go, you'll get a random transfer request being handed in, and the big deals of the day will be done.
Yep.
But we can't just rely on that. We need to keep seeing what is going on, and the one transfer or non-transfer that keeps rumbling on is Morgan Schneiderlin. The
He was on
Southampton
strike.
boss.
Was he not on strike just before I went
Yeah,
on?
we talked about this before, didn't we? Well, Ronald Koeman said that he's not for sale at any price. I think that's daft. I think if the money comes in, Southampton didn't have an appalling start to the Barclays Premier League from off the top of my head, and
They played very well against Liverpool, but they just didn't have enough to win the game.
They didn't have, and it was a 90th minute goal, wasn't it? Raheem Sterling, I think, got the effort in the end. But I don't think Southampton are going to go down, and Morgan Schneiderlin's not going to keep them in the league if his heart's not in the right place.
That's
so
right. Now
let him go.
He seemed to have quite a good game, did he not?
He did all right.
Excuse me, we're moving on to another transfer. Now you've got note here, Ben. Fulham defender Fernando Amrabat talks over a move to
Fernando who?
Yeah, Amrabieta.
Amrabieta.
But I mean, hang on. With Fulham start 3 games out of 3, no points at all. Can they afford to lose a defender?
They can't afford to lose a defender, but I think they could afford to lose their manager. I mean, I'm amazed he's still there, Felix.
Yeah, so am I.
To be honest.
And he looks so gormless as well when he gives interviews. I mean, gormless. Those glasses. I call them the gormless glasses because that's what makes him look.
You're talking about Felix.
Felix, yeah.
Felix the cat.
Well, a lot of people are amazed he survived going down.
Unbelievable, really. But I was talking to somebody from Fulham this morning who says that the atmosphere at the club is, well, desperate.
He doesn't really kind of give you much confidence, does he? He's not a guy. I mean, he's not a guy that looks like he knows what he's doing.
No, that's true. That's true.
Well, he's got no championship experience. I mean, Neil Warnock of this parish.
He hasn't got much Premier League experience either.
Well, exactly.
He's only in it for about 10 seconds.
10 seconds, then he got them relegated. But, Neil Warnock was available. This is a guy that's taking countless teams up into the Barclays Premier League.
That's another thing. I mean, I know technically we're not talking transfer managers speak, but what about your mate Steve Sherwood, who's now ruled himself out of the Crystal Palace job?
Yeah. Well, he had to, didn't he? Because he'd been overlooked for Malky Mackay, and then all these problems pile up. Malky Mackay becomes ineligible.
But do you think that's why then?
You can't. Tim Sherwood couldn't then take it on the base. Well, because he was branded second best to all intents and purposes.
Yeah, but I mean, if you were offered a job,
I'd have given it to him first off. Actually, I thought Sherwood would have been a great choice. Yeah. But I think once you've been said, well, look, I'm awfully sorry, but we've gone for Malky Mackay, so you've been told you're not first choice. You can't possibly go.
Well, yeah, but you could say that there are kind of extraordinary circumstances why that's the case. So I mean, my concern is that he's got something else up his sleeve, or he can promise something else.
Tony Pulis.
Tim Sherwood.
Tony Pulis will be back.
Nah.
Well, would it surprise you?
It's a rumour I've been hearing all day. It's a rumour I've been hearing all day. I mean, Tony Pulis only didn't go. Didn't stay for financial reasons. And when you've got a crisis at a club, you've got to iron out the financial problems and try and make it work, haven't you?
Well, they've only got a few days to go, haven't they?
They've only got a few days to
go. Now,
go.
you mentioned Sami Khedira earlier as one of the players that Paul Scholes said should have gone to Manchester United. He's still possibly going to Arsenal. I thought this one was dead and buried.
So did I. And it was after captain Mikel Arteta got injured in the Champions League playoff on Tuesday, which Arsenal obviously couldn't score in. And they'll win about 11-0 at the Emirates, so the Gooners have got nothing to worry about. But captain Mikel Arteta...
Game.
It was a weird game.
I watched it in Turkey, which was also weird.
Oh, really? That must have been quite an interesting experience.
Was it like Turkish commentary?
Yes.
Well, you see, can't watch a game.
They got very excited every time Besiktas got anywhere near Arsenal's half.
I bet they did,
I bet they did. Well, also when Arsenal will get into the Champions League, they'll get out of their group by hook or by crook, and they'll get knocked out in the quarterfinals, and they'll finish fourth again next season, and it will just be this ridiculous merry-go-round that Arsene Wenger's been enjoying for the last 16 years, and will be accused of being anti-Arsenal on TalkSport, as we always are. But at least they are now signing players. At least Arsene Wenger has said, be it that he's finally won the battle with himself, playing the kids, or bringing, not spending money and having these principles. We're not going to be like Chelsea or Man United. We're going to bring through our own talent. That's not working. He's spending money, and maybe it didn't work in the case of Mesut Ozil. He has not been great for Arsenal, I don't think.
Well, he went and won the World Cup though, didn't he?
For Germany,
I'll
take
your
point. But he's not been great in Arsenal shirt.
Arsenal and in the World Cup.
Ben's very hard on players. He's very, very hard on them.
What news of Theo Walcott?
What news of Theo Walcott? Well, I mean, Theo Walcott, he's injured, isn't he?
But I mean, is he due back October, I think, isn't it?
He's going to miss the first round of qualifiers. I think it'll be nearer Christmas for Theo Walcott.
Is that right?
So, yeah.
Well,
that's going to hurt
injury.
Arsenal.
That's a long injury layoff.
Well, that's something we often talk about as well here, isn't it? How long Arsenal players are out for. They're very... I mean, Jack Wilshere last year was out for much longer than they originally said.
Well, he's been out for the best part of the last 3 seasons, Wilshere, isn't he? It's bizarre. But, yeah, so lots going on. We're right across it on TalkSport.
Okay.
And stay with us.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Ben, for bringing a bit of common sense and persuasion to the show. Thank you.
One tries one's best.
Thank you. Yeah,
how do you mean persuasion? Thank you, Ben.
Well, what I mean is a man who's speaking through facts and through knowledge.
Not very often heard from that side of the table.
Rather than bashing this drum, about Everton aren't the greatest team because you don't know anything else.
I'm not bashing any drum. I was just correcting you as I try to do, so that people are not given the wrong impression. Now, just before we move off the transfers, I see from the back of the Mirror Mirror, and a couple of other papers have got this as well, on Mario Balotelli, we were talking about earlier, saying that basically if he does sign, as we expect him to, for Liverpool for 16 million, that they will actually give him a good conduct clause, which means that he'll have to behave himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, what does that mean? It's not worth the paper it's written on.
Isn't it?
Right.
Well, haven't Barcelona got a clause for Suarez? If he bites anybody, they're going to get rid of him.
What? Now, I have got some tweets here from people who support me on the Mario Balotelli thing.
Are these tweets that you can read out in any kind of order?
Of course. Now, there's one here which says... What's this? Here we go. Right. This is... What are you laughing at?
That's just something that I heard.
Right.
You can't read anything out.
Hang on.
This is read anything out.
This is from Ed. First of all, he's very complimentary. He says, "Great show, lads. Making late shift tolerable. Great banter." I have to say, I agree with Mr. P on at Finally Mario. Is that his Twitter address?
At Finally Mario. Yeah, I think it is.
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
Well, if it's got an at in front of it, that's usually a clue.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, it could have been a spoof one. That's all I'm saying.
It could. Well, that's why it's always advisable to read the tweets to yourself before you read them out.
And then it says #trouble and Mario Balotelli. So they've got a Liverpool fan agreeing with me, saying, don't go. If I have a look through these, and there's dozens of them, I will definitely find another one. Where are we here? Here we are. Well, they are here, believe me.
Bingo! I believe you. Why don't we have this from Paul in Mitcham instead? He says, ask Porky to explain bow, cough, dough, rough. 4 different sounds.
I can't be bothered.
You can't be bothered?
Can't be bothered to get into
I'm terribly sorry to have interrupted that incredibly lucid reading of some tweets.
Ridiculous enunciations of English
pronunciations.
Words. Yeah, pronunciations and enunciations of English words. I'm not getting into it. I'm sorry, Matt. I'm not. I'm not getting trapped into this ridiculous corner. You know, the English language developed over a period of 3,500 years. And I am not going to be held accouple for reasons why Edinburgh is not called Edinburgh, why somewhere I come from a place near Burheath, which is Burgh Heath. It's not Burgheath, it's Burheath, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not getting into it. I'm fed up with it.
How would you pronounce this place in Scotland? Milngavie. Phonetically pronounced Milngavie.
Well, I don't know.
You don't know?
No, because I don't care. I'm fed up with all this.
Well, because you just get pronunciations wrong.
I am fed up with all this. I mean, you know, it doesn't give me any joy. There's a place in Cheshire, right, because I used to work on the Chester Chronicle, and it had the most strangest spelling. It was like, you know, THEOIGH, you know, URSS. INT or
double
something
SS.
like that. Yeah, something like that.
4 S's.
Well, you know what I'm saying. And its actual pronunciation was just thu. THU. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, like through?
Yeah. And it was
amazing.
And it was spelt like, you know, a 16-letter word. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is Milngavie.
I'll tell you another one I've just remembered.
I've just explained to you how do you pronounce that.
How do you pronounce it?
Milngavie.
Mull of Mulgai.
Mull of Mulgai, no.
Mist rolling over. There's another one I've just remembered,
but
actually.
It's quite an exclusive sort of suburb of Glasgow.
I've lost my pen.
What have you lost now?
I want to write it down.
You so disorganised.
Here.
I've been away from 2 weeks. You know what's happened?
No.
Is that the way that normally your brain is compartmentalised?
Yeah.
You've completely lost the ability to do that.
Right, here, I'll pronounce this for me.
Go on.
CHOL.
Yeah.
MON. DLEY.
Chumley.
What?
Chumley. That's dead easy, that one.
You're supposed to say Cholmondeley.
No, it's everybody knows that's Chumley.
No, they don't. I always thought it was Cholmondeley.
Well, you might have always thought that. Doesn't mean anybody else did.
You're struggling with that surname.
Mr. Chumley Warner, do you not remember him from the adverts?
No. And how would you know how his name was spelled? That's just phonetic.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chumley Warner was the famous Harry Enfield.
I think you cheated
advert.
there, because I didn't know that.
The fact that you didn't know it comes as no surprise to me.
Until the editor of the Chester Chronicle told me. He wrote...
It's just ridiculous.
He wrote a book called Plague on the Cheshire Plain, and it was about foot and mouth disease, you know, with all these cows had died. And this wasn't the recent one with Tony Blair. It was, I think it was Ted Heath. It was years ago. It was in it was late 60s, early 70s, the very early 70s. And millions of cows died in Cheshire. I mean, Cheshire nearly got wiped out, right?
Yeah.
And the editor of the paper thought it was so important, he took a year off to write a book about it, you know.
How did it sell?
about 3 copies. Nobody cared about Plague on the Cheshire Plain. By the time the book came out 2.5 years later, the plague had all gone away. Nobody cared. And all these cows that had been buried, there was no sign of them anymore. Sort of wiped out the cow population of Cheshire.
Cows can't read anyway.
No, cows can't read. Nobody cared. Nobody cared.
If I produced a book with all the stuff that you don't know in it, you wouldn't be able to read that in an afternoon, would you? This is Talk Sport. Coming up, of course, in the next hour, we're going to be talking about Iceland, favourite destination, Mr. Parry, because there's worries, do you know, about the volcanoes erupting again and all the ash clouds.
It doesn't seem to be erupting now, does it? It's another scare story.
Well, we're going to be talking about that. Plus, we will be talking about a great many other things as well. We might even have a look at some of the other front page stories as well. Coming up right now, though, it's 4 o'clock, time for the news sports headlines.
Now, just before we go any further, I want to bring this up.
What?
I want our listeners to know what I have to cope with, OK?
Yeah.
As you left the studio then, that short break, when Ben very expertly and professionally read out the headlines,
the
news,
sport,
and
the weather.
And no mention in the weather, of course, about volcanic ash, because that's a myth in your head.
It's not in my head.
That's not real. You go to your desk.
Yeah.
And on your desk, and I want you to be absolutely honest about this, there are 2 packets of cigarettes.
Not anymore, there are.
Oh, you finished one, have you?
Right, well, there was one.
And
with,
got on to the second now.
No, there was one with 2
2 packets of cigarettes.
No, excuse me. There was
How many cigarettes are there in 2 packs of cigarettes?
40.
So you can't get through a show here for 5 hours without consuming 40 cigarettes.
Absolute rubbish.
No, it's not. Why are there 2 packets of cigarettes on your desk?
I'll explain it to you in a moment. If I smoked 40 cigarettes in 5 hours, that would be ludicrous.
No. I think you are smoking at that sort of rate. You seem to nip out there to the fire escape, which is the only place in this building where people
you're not allowed
smoke
to
a
smoke
cigarette.
out there.
And you seem to be, in the direction of the fire escape, underneath the fire escape.
Yeah.
And you seem to, ingest one in about 10 seconds flat. And I think that's why you've got 2 packets of 20. Because you can only smoke a cigarette for about 10 or 12 seconds, then you have to discard it. So therefore, you're only smoking 1/10 of a cigarette.
If you
so
remember,
if you had a normal cigarette, you would smoke 10/10 of it. You smoke 1/10 of it, so you've got 40 cigarettes, which would normally be 10 cigarettes. But you smoke so little of them.
You've been clearly overthinking this.
No, not at all.
I'll tell you why there were 2 packets there. When I came in this evening, I had 1 packet with 2 cigarettes in it. Okay. And when the show started, I had one of those.
So you're only going to smoke 22 cigarettes tonight, are you?
No, I'm not going to smoke any more than about 3 or 4. But, you don't just bring 3 or 4 cigarettes loose, do you? You bring them in a packet.
2 packs of cigarettes on your desk. I mean, that's honestly, it's all very well you trying to wriggle out of it, but you've got a problem. You've got a problem. You smoke.
What you
nicotine addict.
What you didn't see was in my bag. I've got the 200. It doesn't mean I'm going to smoke them all, does it?
I suppose you brought those back from holiday, did you?
I brought 400 back from holiday, actually.
400, I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah.
I despair.
Why?
Well, because
if I bring 400 cigarettes back from holiday, right, I save myself 100 quid.
I mean, why would you want to glory in the fact that, in order to kill myself more quickly, I bought cheaper cigarettes?
Well, to be honest, sitting here with you for 3 hours, I wonder if I'm not doing it quickly enough.
Our listeners won't even find that mildly funny. Not mildly funny, OK? Not mildly.
Anyway, you were having a go at me for smoking just the other day on social media because I tweeted a picture as I was flying back from Antalya in Turkey of this smoking area that they've got inside the airport.
It's disgusting.
And I said, why on earth can we not have one of those? It was, actually a bit more than a shed. It was a covered area. But
I can't believe you can go in there and come out again.
What do you mean?
You go in there and supposing...
It's not like the Roach Motel.
Yes, it is.
You check in, but you don't check out.
Yes, that's right. Your wife has provided you with clean clothes...
She's not my wife.
...to depart, OK, the mother of your children. God, you are touchy on this, aren't you? She's not my wife. You live as man and wife, don't you?
Well, she's not my wife.
Well, OK,
so why would you call her
the
that?
mother of your children,
yeah.
OK. Yes, I'm sure she'll feel very buoyed up and confident now about your relationship. I mean, listen to that. So your 2 little boys have been dressed nicely by the mother of your children. The mother of your children have been dressed nicely, and you've put on your clothes to travel home. You get to the airport. You then go into this filthy, chimney type arrangement, which is what it is. To have,
it's fully equipped with devices to remove
to
any
indulge
air.
yourself in a cigarette. You come out smelling literally like a bonfire, like November the 5th, like Guy Fawkes, and you feel that you're not in any way imposing upon your family.
No, not at all.
But you must be.
Why?
Your clothes are impregnated with tobacco smoke, with ash, with disgusting chemicals
rolling
that come out
around
of
out
cigarettes. Sorry?
I'm not rolling around out there.
Well, you are as good as, because actually air doesn't lie on the floor. Tobacco expulsion air is in the air, and you're moving within that air.
But it gets removed by ventilating machines.
And it gets into the wool of your jumper.
Well, even if that was true, okay?
Gets into your socks.
Even if that was true.
Goes up your trouser leg. It's all there.
Even if all of that was true.
It is true.
It would be none of your business, technically, because it's got what I do with my family and my own lungs is entirely my affair.
But it is heartless, and it is unthinking, and it is selfish.
Well, there's lots of things...
Would you not agree? Would you not agree?
No, I wouldn't agree.
You were about to say there's a lot of things I do.
There's a lot of things. Yeah,
like what?
Which you
what
do,
do I do? What?
But which would be none of my business to criticise you for.
What do I do which affects other people?
Well, almost everything that you do affects other people.
No, I don't. I am incredibly courteous and open-minded about the effect that I have on other people's lives.
Really?
Yes, I am, yes.
So how do you explain spraying trees with ammonia?
That's to keep the pavements clean for everybody in my street.
Is it?
Yes.
So that doesn't affect anyone?
No.
So if you own a dog and you take the dog down your street...
Well, you should train your dog properly, or you should look after your dog properly, or look after your responsibilities as the owner of a dog. And if you don't, then I'm sorry, the dog's got a cop for it, because I can't spray ammonia in the face of the person walking the dog.
The spare car that you keep down in Portsmouth in order to make sure that nobody parks in your parking spot?
What's wrong with that?
Well, why can't you let somebody park in your parking spot when you're not there?
Because I've paid like tens of thousands of pounds for the parking spot.
Well, you're an idiot then.
No, I'm not an idiot. If I suddenly arrive and need that parking spot and somebody else has got their car in it, what am I to do? I would then have to park in somebody else's slot. That would cause chaos, OK?
But why wouldn't you just let somebody else park in your spot while you're not there and just have an arrangement with someone and you can share it?
And what am I supposed to do? If I decide when we come out tonight, I'll jump in the old Merc and shoot off down to the coast, right? Am I supposed to ring somebody in the middle of the night and say, by the way, get out of bed and move your car out of my slot? It's better to keep my slot, because it is mine. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all.
But you've got somebody who has to move the car when you get down there, right?
No, I move it.
You park where while you move the other car?
I put it in a car park next door to the development I live in, where lots of people park, cheaper cars.
For nothing?
No, I think it's about £3.50 a day.
So you pay $3.50 to park your car while you move the other car that's parked in your space?
No. I go,
you park there illegally?
No.
Well, how do you do it then?
I go into my gated community
with
a special buzzer to open the gates.
Yes.
And I park alongside my other car.
Isn't there a space there?
Yes, but there's somebody else's cars in that space because I don't want to take up their space, OK?
Right.
So I then move my car, put it in the old, municipal or whatever it's called. Pay
It'd be
the
great if somebody
£3.50.
nipped into your space while you were moving the other car.
No, they wouldn't do that. No, they don't do that. I live in a very civilised community, believe me.
Well, why do you have to park a car in your space then?
Well, it's a number of reasons. Firstly, I might want to go down on the train sometimes. I come out of here, Waterloo Station is, 300, 400 yards away? I might want to go to Waterloo Station, jump on a train to Portsmouth, and then need the availability of a car down there.
Right.
OK, no problem at all. And for that reason, I don't have to go home and jump in the Merc and drive down there, OK? Quite as simple as that.
Very complicated.
No, it's not. It's not complicated at all. On the other hand, the other reason why the car is there is simply that it doesn't encourage people to park in my space. Because,
even though it's a very civilised community, do you think they might do that?
Well, sometimes I can not be there for 2 weeks. So people will say, look, Mike hasn't been around for a while. A friend's come over.
I think you've passed on.
Hang on. A friend's come over. They've got nowhere to park. I'm sure he won't mind if we just use his space. That's natural, normal, human
And what's wrong
behaviour.
with that?
Nothing.
You're
unless,
preventing them from doing that. Though.
Nothing unless 10 minutes later I suddenly turn up, I come in and I go mad because, after a stressful day and a hard journey, I don't know what you're laughing at, I suddenly find some jerk has parked his car in my space and I'm not having it. Simple as that.
I see. Mike Porky Parry, who is, of course, the great benefactor of many, many things, and is not at all selfish, at all. Never
I'm
heard
a great
of anything
charity
like
giver.
That. I know you're a great charity giver. We've already talked about why you do that, and there's a deep-seated psychological reason. Now, we've got a quiz coming up for you very shortly, which is all about English literature, because English literature is very much in the news at the moment. Coming up,
Greatest
though,
literature
we're
in the
going to have a
world.
look, I think, at what is likely to be the scores of the big games coming up this weekend in the
Okay.
Premier League. Have you
I'm
got
in
your
for that.
predictor table? This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Mike Parry is here. I'm Mike Graham, and I've got a little package here, or an envelope at least, which has been handed to me by the producer. I wonder if you should open it for me, because since you didn't send me a birthday card, I think it might be a birthday card, but it feels like there might be something nice in it. Would you mind opening it for me?
I'm not opening it.
Why not?
Well, it might be dangerous.
What do you mean dangerous?
Well, it's got something in it. I don't know what that something is, so I'd
Well, it's
prefer if you
obviously a
opened
card. You want me to open it?
Well, it's addressed to you, so why don't you open
Well,
it?
I just thought it might be nice if you opened it. I'll tell you while I'm opening it, in the meantime, how
Might
about
get your
this?
fingers blown off, of course.
Well, if they do get blown off, it's been very nice knowing you.
Yeah, exactly.
Neil in Manchester says this on the text 81089.
Mhm.
How can Porky read a book in an afternoon if it takes him 5 minutes to read a 3-line text? Which is a very good point.
I shan't react to that.
And here's one from Richard Saltash in Cornwall. He says, can you say a big hello to Saltash FC and Plymouth fans as well?
Mm-hmm.
And here's one, a serious question, actually. Porky, do you think Everton will cope without Barkley? And do you think it's a big risk for Everton to try and rush him back, as this sort of injury needs to be treated carefully, or it could happen again?
Well, we still don't know
No
the
name
extent
on
of the
that one.
injury. We still don't know the extent of the injury until the bruising goes down, which I found a bit mystifying. I didn't know you got bruising when you tore your ligaments, but I'm very ignorant of medical things.
Well, I suppose it can happen. I mean, it
I
depends
suppose
on
it
how
must
it's
have
done.
happened, but we don't know.
Very
until
bad
we
news
see.
for Everton, though, isn't it?
Of course, it's bad news, very bad news. And but as to can we survive without him? Yes, of course we can, because we've actually got quite a strong squad, and the boys are up for it. And it'll be a great landmark game on Saturday night for Everton and Arsenal, because
Live
Everton,
on TalkSport, that game as well.
Live on TalkSport, absolutely.
Is that the 5:30 kickoff?
5:30 kickoff. Everton need to win it because it's their first home game, and they should have got 3 points against Leicester. But equally, Arsenal very much need to win it as well.
Will you be popping up there for that one?
No, I'm not going up for that one. No.
Oh well.
And the following Saturday, actually, we've got Chelsea at home, and exactly the same arrangement: 5:30 kickoff. Yeah.
Well, the Selco Predictor is back, of
Right.
course, and
Yeah.
we're about to do it in a moment. But it says here, you still, once again, just like last season, £1 million is up for grabs.
Wow.
You know? It's week 2 of the Premier League, and it's not too late to sign up for free at talksport.com/predictor. Correctly predict the scores of all 10 of this weekend's top flight matches, and you'll be in the money.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now then, who's topping the board at the moment? Is it Harry Thistle?
Listener Harry Thistle tops the
That's
leaderboard
what I mean,
after
yeah.
the opening weekend with a huge 210 points.
And back here in-house, it's Ian Danter, who tops the TalkSport leaderboard, 75 points. Last year's champion, Mickey Quinn, sitting on a mere 25. And I suppose the question this weekend is, the big one is, can Manchester United bounce back? Obviously, they got beaten at home against Swansea on the opening day. First time in Premier League history that's happened to them. They're going to Sunderland. Don't suppose that's going to be a particularly easy game, but...
I don't think there's any easy games for Man United at the moment,
But
are there?
66% of the participators in our Selco Predictor League think that United will take that one. So 2/3 of the available audience who've been researched say, yeah, United will bounce back.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure about that. To get involved, just go to talksport.com/predictor. Players must be 18 or over to win the cash prize. See the website for full terms and conditions. Don't forget to get your predictions in by 5 p.m. on Friday. That's today, to be in with a chance of winning the £1 million prize pot. It's all thanks to Selco Builders Warehouse.
That's right, and that's where you can always predict great service pricing and stock availability. Remember that, please, MG, will you?
I will remember that.
Good man.
Selco Predictor, it's out there, and you can win £1 million if you get them all right now.
Right.
Let's have a look at some of these fixtures coming
Yeah,
up.
come on,
Aston
come on,
Villa
let's get on
against
with it.
Newcastle
Let's get on with it.
is the early kickoff. Newcastle probably a bit unlucky last week, I suppose. What would you say?
I would say Villa were overlucky. Remember last season, Villa went to Highbury on the first... the Emirates on the first
Emirates,
day and beat... Arsenal. So everybody thought Arsenal were down the tubes and Villa were going to have a great season.
Yeah.
In fact, it turned around the other way by Christmas.
Well, you might say the same about Man United, because they beat Swansea last season with David Moyes in charge, didn't they? And then it all went from bad to worse.
At Swansea on the opening day. Right, I think Villa flattered to deceive, and I think that's going to be a 1-1 draw.
You know, that's what I've put down as well for that.
Is that right?
Extraordinary. Chelsea-Leicester. Chelsea top of the league already with Jose Mourinho. I think they're going to have too much for Leicester, don't you?
Oh, by a mile. I'm predicting Chelsea 4, Leicester 1.
I'm going 3-0 there. Crystal Palace, who may or may not have a manager. I presume they won't have a manager by the time they play West Ham. What do you think of that one?
I think the turmoil at the club is in the boardroom. It's not on the pitch. Nevertheless, Palace suffered an opening day defeat, which won't have helped their morale with everything else going on. And West Ham, I thought, were very unlucky to lose their first game. I'm going Crystal Palace 1, West Ham 2.
I'm going 1-1 there. Another draw at 1 goal apiece. Southampton against West Brom's the next one.
Yeah, I think that'll be Southampton 2, West Brom 2.
I think Southampton will win that. I think it'll be Southampton a 2-1 victory. Swansea-Burnley. I think Swansea are quite good this season.
Well, they're very good because they've opened on with 3 points from Old Trafford on the opening day. Can't see how Burnley can bounce back from their drubbing, because it was a drubbing against Chelsea. Chelsea just took their foot off the gas towards the end, but it has exposed the weaknesses in the Burnley team. And Swansea are very high on confidence as a result of their opening game. 3-1 to Swansea.
Yeah, I'm going 2-0 to Swansea. Then your one coming up next, live on TalkSport, 5:30 kick-off on Saturday.
Yes.
Everton against Arsenal.
Yes.
Could be the game of the weekend, this.
It will be. Everton 3, Arsenal 1.
You're just saying that, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I mean that sincerely.
I must say, I think Arsenal look a bit sort of
shaky,
stodgy at the moment. Not quite ready for prime time.
A bit shaky, and Everton were unlucky not to get the points at Leicester. If you don't believe me, speak to Raimondo, the real Romford Pele, who went to the game and said Everton should have won it easily.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw here, because I think Arsenal are going to have to find something.
Give me a break.
I think they're going to find enough goals to eke it out. Because the thing that's good about Arsenal is that they didn't play that brilliantly against Crystal Palace at the weekend, but they managed to get the win. And the same goes for their game against Besiktas. I mean, they should have been 2 or 3-0 down, as far as my reading of it was.
Maybe.
And they managed to get away with a 0-0 draw. So I think they'll get a 2-2 draw there at Goodison. Next one up is Hull against Stoke City.
Yeah.
Not a great night for Hull in Europe last night.
Stoke lost at home on the day, didn't they?
They did.
Who to?
I can't remember now.
Is it Sunderland? Was it Sunderland?
I think it was Aston Villa, actually.
Aston Villa. Oh, it was Aston Villa, was it? Right, okay.
Yeah, it was Sunderland, West Brom, wasn't it?
That's, of course it was, yeah. Right, Hull 2, Stoke City 1.
This is disturbing, because I'm getting an awful lot of similar scores to you at the moment. Spurs QPR, now this is a nice one, isn't it? With Harry Redknapp returning to White Hart Lane.
It is. Tottenham 2, QPR 2.
You don't think Tottenham are going to win this one?
I think Tottenham were very lucky in the West Ham game. And by the way, you make your own luck, so I'm not knocking them, and I'm not saying that it was an unjust result, but I'm not sure that their luck will hold. And QPR, they're fired with ambition. 2-2.
I'm going 2-0 to Tottenham here. I don't think QPR are going to have anything there.
Okay.
Now, the one we talked about earlier, Sunderland against Manchester United.
Yeah.
Sunderland, a bit of a bogey team for some clubs last year, and for Man United in the Cup, weren't they?
I just can't see Manchester United losing 2 games on the trot.
Can you not?
I think the Iron Tulip, Louis van Gaal, has got to do something to rectify the most disastrous start you could imagine, and therefore he's got to throw everything at this. Sunderland 1, Manchester United 2.
Well, this is when we're going to find out whether he's up to all the hype that he was given before he got here. Because
the Iron Tulip, and when she gets beaten, the Iron Tulip smashes back.
I think the Iron Tulip might be wilting a little bit in this one. I think Gus Poyet's going to be unhappy about what happened last weekend. I think Sunderland are going to edge this one.
Right.
I'm going to say Sunderland 1, Man United 0. Which will be very, very unfortunate for Man United fans.
And plant Manchester United at the bottom of the Premier League.
It might well do. Manchester City, Liverpool. Another fantastic game. Tough one to call, perhaps, for you.
I don't think it's that tough, to be honest. I think, Liverpool had some tremendous results last season, largely because of Luis Suarez, who's the sort of guy you need against the sort of defence that Manchester City have. But without him, I don't think they've got enough penetrative power to get past the City back four.
What about that pass from Henderson, though?
Yeah, it was a terrific pass. It was a terrific
pass. Amazing.
It was a terrific pass, and it was weighted and measured. But I'm sorry, this is going to be Manchester City 2, Liverpool 0.
Well, I wonder whether Mario Balotelli's going to be playing, you see, and that could change things quite dramatically, couldn't it, against his old
Will
club.
He be eligible to play if he signs tomorrow?
I think if he signs in the next 24 hours, he could be available to play.
Okay.
But whether he plays or not is still up in the air. I think Manchester City look too good this year, though.
Yeah, I do as well.
I think it could be one of those 3-0
Premier League's going to be between Manchester City and Chelsea. Yeah. And in the end, Chelsea will win it. I know that because the Porky Brain Book has worked out all the results. Chelsea will win 89 points, 3 points clear of Manchester City.
You think?
Oh, yes.
Really? Well, that's a very bold prediction indeed. But we shall see. And the transfer window hasn't closed yet, of course, either. And there's still a couple of players out there that might end up playing for either one of those teams.
It's true.
But those are our predictions, I suppose, for want of a better word.
Predictions.
Our predictions. And
nice bit of alliteration up, Mike.
You can go onto our website and have a chance to win £1 million. All you've got to do is get all 10 right. I think I'm in 4th position in the league at the moment. So
are you?
I think that's rather good after the first
false
week.
Premise, isn't it?
Yeah,
false dawn.
particularly since I was away when it all started. Now, we've been talking about Manchester United all night. You were saying earlier that Paul Scholes has been very vociferous in his criticism of not just the way they're playing at the moment, but in the way that they're not buying the right kind of players. everybody said. I mean, Alan Shearer said, I think, on Match of the Day that they need to buy at least 3 world-class players between now and the end of the transfer window. We're going to talk now to David Hammond. David Hammond, I'm sorry, who's a Manchester United fan and founder of the United Religion over in the United States. Find out what he makes of the poor start to the season by Louis van Gaal. David, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Very good morning to you as well. Thank you for having me.
Not at all.
Yeah, it was a tough start to the season. You know, you had the preseason like we did. You go into the first game, you're full of confidence, and all of a sudden you get the wind out of your sails. You know, it just shows that we're still lacking depth in the squad. Injuries are killing us at the moment, and you know, we had to play. Give 2 debutants, Reece James and Tyler Blackett. You know, so that's tough.
So, I mean, as far as the criticism from Paul Scholes, I don't know whether you've seen any of that recently, it's all based around the fact that they're not buying players that they need, and they still need to buy at least 3 between now and the end of the month. But there doesn't seem to be any sign necessarily that's going to happen.
Well, we definitely need at least 3 players to come in, especially with the formation that Van Gaal is going with. You need at least 1 more defender on top of Rojo, and you know, you need depth in the midfield. You need a playmaker up top. Di Maria obviously would be a first choice as a, you know, I don't know if he could be deployed as a wing back, but he's very creative. He'll create goals for you. He's just a game changer, kind of like a Gareth Bale, Ronaldo. You know, he's a surplus in Madrid. But we also need the Michael Carrick injury right now. You know, despite his off season last year, that type of player, we need something at the back as well.
Yeah, David, I don't know how much news filters over to the United States about the internal workings of Manchester United and what's going on behind the scenes, but are you aware that the club, with its present financial structure of repaying a massive debt, does not have big funds available to buy these sort of players that you would expect to go to Manchester United in years gone by?
No, I think the money's there, but the
It's not there.
is,
It's not there, mate. I'm sorry. It's no good saying you think it's there. It's not there. Believe me. You've paid £700 million in interest payments since the Glazer family came from the United States and bought Manchester United. You ain't got money.
I think that's not it. The money could be there. Okay. The reason being, I think the last 2 transfer markets have been with the 2 managers coming in have been dealt with poorly. When Moyes came in, he didn't get the job till the 1st of July. Him and Woodward, a new tandem, didn't work well together, and you know, we're scrambling at the end of the transfer window to bring players in. Same thing with Van Gaal. The World Cup, you know, he comes in, you know, and he's thrown right in. He doesn't have time to, you know, he's got his A-list of players that he wants, but now, you know, some of them, you know, the clubs see how much we're making on the off-field revenue, so they're going to hold us ransom for those types of moves. Plus the lack of Champions League play, that does tie into it.
One final question, David. Do you think Manchester United can get some points out of Sunderland?
Oh, most certainly. It's Manchester United, so no matter if we're down in the dumps, you never go into a game feeling like you're going to drop points, especially against the Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
bold prediction there. This is the kind of thing we were hearing last season. This at the same time last season when things started going a bit wrong for David Moyes. Manchester United fans particularly, couldn't believe it that they couldn't go to places where they were going and not get any points.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is that the trend that was set last season with David Moyes needed to be smashed to pieces in the opening game of this season, and it didn't. It perpetuated it. That's the big fear amongst Manchester United fans, that it wasn't just that they didn't beat Swansea on the opening day here. They're perpetuating the indifference of last season. And how long will it go on for? That's what they want to know.
That's the big problem. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on this morning. Coming up next, though, it's time for Porky's Quiz of the Week. And this week, the subject is English literature.
Bring it on.
It's that time of the show when we decide we have to have a little quiz for Mr. Porky Parry. And it's kicked off there by something very relevant. A little piece of music by a band that you probably never heard of called Shakespeare's Sister.
Shakespeare's Sister, yeah.
Shakespeare's
yeah,
Sister.
I've heard of them.
You know about them?
Yeah, know about them.
Oh, good.
Didn't they sing We're Lost in Music? I'm lost in music, caught in a trap, no turning back, I'm lost in music. Yeah?
I'm caught in a trap. That's an Elvis song, isn't it?
No. I'm lost in music.
Suspicious Minds.
Feel so alone. Baby, I'm on my own. I'm lost in music. No, that was a great song. That was Shakespeare's Sister.
You may be more of an expert in
Sister.
Shakespeare's Sister than I am.
Yep.
I'm not an expert in Shakespeare's Sister.
I'm lost in music.
So that's by Sister Sledge, apparently.
What?
Sister Sledge.
I knew it was a sister
It's
in it somewhere.
Very
There you
different.
go. Yeah.
Anyway, that had no relevance, of course, to literacy, which is what we're going to talk about now. Lots of kids have been out there taking their GCSEs in maths and English. Some of the questions, by the way, that I saw in the Telegraph the other day were very, very difficult in the maths exam. But
Well, it would be for
this
I was going to say a blind, a figure blind individual like you.
Well,
figuratively blind. Yeah.
Figuratively. Well, never mind the insults, because it's time for you to prove that you are indeed
Just
an
an
expert
observation.
in English literature, which you've said many times.
Right, well, come on, let's get on with
And
it.
the first question is number one.
Right.
There's no extra different answers here. There's no multiple choice. It's just a straight answer. Shakespeare in Love is a film version of Romeo and Juliet. Who was the director?
What's that got to do with English literature?
I didn't set the quiz.
Well, I'm not answering that question because that's not a question about literature. That's a question about a film. And it's not. I am not being tested on films. I'm being tested on books.
Well, you're not going to like this quiz then.
Well, I'm sorry, but you've got to get the quiz right, mate. It's not my problem.
I didn't set the quiz.
What was the stupid question again?
Shakespeare in Love is a film version of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Which is a part of English literature, isn't it? Who was the director?
It's rubbish. It's nonsense. If you'd have asked me, what was the name of the character who did this or that and that in Romeo and Juliet, I'd have told you. But that's nonsense. I'm not answering it.
All right.
Don't be so stupid.
We'll cancel that one out then. Next question. Number 2. Alice Walker's 1983 Pulitzer Prize-winning American novel, The Colour Purple, was turned into a Hollywood movie. Who played the lead character?
That's another question about a film. I'm not answering that. I'm sorry. That's rubbish.
Okay.
And that's not English literature.
You're quite right. Neither one of these is English literature.
Hang on. Did you say that was an American book?
It was an American book, yeah.
What's that got to do with English literature?
I've no idea.
Rubbish. This is rubbish.
Number 3.
Who set this quiz?
One of the guys behind the glass.
It's rubbish. I'm sorry.
Number 3. Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy became a cult classic. Right? That's English literature, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you name 4 galaxies?
The Milky Way.
That's not a galaxy.
Well, the Milky Way's part of a galaxy.
That's not one, though, is it? It's not the same.
It's a colloquial name for a galaxy.
It's from the book we want about the galaxy names.
You want the galaxies?
Have you read the book?
No.
Right.
It's not a proper book.
Well, it's not a proper
It's a
book.
mythical book.
A mythical book?
Yeah, it's a book about... What I'm saying is, it's somebody's head, it sounds like the book is written by somebody who's confused.
Douglas Adams is his name.
Yeah, well, okay, well, there you go.
Do you know what the answer to everything is in the book?
No.
No. You didn't watch the show either?
No.
The answer to everything is 42.
What's the relevance of that?
Well, you have to read the book. Number 4. You're not doing well.
You can't explain to me then, so you don't know.
Well, we haven't got time. We're doing a quiz.
Right.
Number 4.
Well, we're doing a formal quiz, yeah.
Name the main character in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Smiley.
First name? I'll give you the point for Smiley.
Smiley. James Smiley.
George.
George Smiley.
Finally got one right. Now, here's a genuine...
When it comes to literature...
That's 1 out of 4.
I don't claim to be Barry Norman. I claim to be, the bard himself. Yeah, go on.
Barry Norman is a film critic.
That's what I mean, and you've asked me two questions about films.
All right, here's one about books.
Right.
Number 5. Jude the Obscure is a book written by whom?
Jude the Obscure was written by the same bloke who wrote Siding with Rosie, Laurie Lee.
Wrong.
Wrong on so many levels.
It was written by Thomas Hardy.
I knew that, actually. And I don't know why I said Laurie Lee. I had this vision of an apple orchard in my head.
Really?
Why did I say that?
I don't know.
I knew it was Thomas Hardy.
Nobody can explain it.
He wrote another great book called Castleton Hill or something.
Test of the D'Urbervilles.
Test of the D'Urbervilles, that was it, yeah. Right, go on.
I think it was Castleton Manor.
Castleton Manor, yeah.
Number 6. Where did the famous poet Seamus Heaney go to university?
Seamus Heaney went to Dublin University.
Wrong. Belfast.
Same thing.
Well,
no, they're linked. They're linked.
It's
the University of All Ireland.
Rubbish.
It is.
Queen's University Belfast is completely different from any university in Ireland.
There is a
Dublin.
Queen's University in Dublin, is there not?
There may well be.
Of course there is. And
But
I
they're
think
not
it
one
is
of
the
the same.
University of Ireland.
They're in
I'm
two-
claiming that point.
No, two different countries.
All Ireland Rugby Team, All Ireland University. believe
Wrong
me.
on so many
Can't have
levels.
Number 7.
Yep.
English playwright and novelist Henry Fielding wrote a book which has the same name as a Welsh pop superstar. Who is he?
Tom Jones.
Very good.
Oh, brilliant! This is drama in the extreme.
And it was about a guy who went to rugby.
Not Las Vegas.
What?
Las Vegas.
That's the other Tom Jones.
Oh, right. Have you read Tom Jones then?
Of course.
You've read that one?
Yes.
How long did it take you to read that?
Not long.
Like a couple of hours?
No, maybe a couple of days, because I was at school at the time, had lessons to do.
Okay. Number 8. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein
Yes.
was first published in 1818 and will
Yes.
be turned into yet another movie in 2015. But what was the name of the monster?
Eh?
What was the name of the monster?
Well, the
Pretty
book was called
straightforward.
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
The monster was called Frankenstein.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
The doctor was called Frankenstein.
Well, everybody knows the monster. He looks like Herman Munster, with the square head, he plugs in his neck and all that. That's Frankenstein.
No,
Everybody
it's not.
knows that's Frankenstein.
No, Dr. Frankenstein is the guy who created the monster. The book is called Frankenstein after the doctor.
If you showed me a picture now of the monster, as you call it, and I showed that to 100 people walking past TalkSport Towers at 6 o'clock this morning, they would all say that's Frankenstein.
Well, it doesn't mean they'd be right, does it?
I'm sorry, but it does mean they'd be right, and
Oh,
I'd
really?
be right as well. What do you think the monster's called?
Never had a name.
Never had a
Anyone
name.
who's read
It's
the
a trick
book would know
question.
that.
It's a trick question.
No, anyone who's read the book would know that.
Right, that's like me saying to you, what's the name of that big tower that's got a clock on the top of it at Parliament?
Uh-huh.
What would you say?
I'd say it's called St Stephen's Tower.
No, you wouldn't. You'd
Yes,
say
I
it's
would.
called Big Ben.
No, it's called St
Because people
Stephen's
call
Tower.
it Big Ben.
It's called St Stephen's
But that
Tower.
hasn't got a name, so there's just, what a stupid question, no answer. I'm telling you it's Frankenstein, and I want a point for Frankenstein. Everybody regards it as Frankenstein.
You sure you haven't got a couple of bolts in your neck? All right, here's one you might be able to get. Number 9. So far, you've got, 2 correct out of 8.
4.
George Orwell's 1984 was written in which year?
It was written in 1952.
Wrong.
And what was the right answer?
1948.
I knew 1948. It was the same
He
year that...
flipped the years around. That's the clue, obviously.
No, it's not. It's the same year that India got their independence. That's why he wrote it.
That was 1947.
Yeah, but it wasn't finished until 1948.
India got its independence in 1947, but it trickled over slightly into
It did.
1948.
Wrong on
It did.
so many
It did.
levels.
History will actually dictate that India became independent in 1948.
Yes, well, you got that one wrong anyway. Finally, one to rescue yourself to get your normal average of 3 out of 10. Number 10. What was the name of Mr. Darcy's love interest in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice? Now, you must have seen various film versions and BBC versions.
they're kind of
this.
sort of soppy, romantic type things, aren't they? So I don't take a great deal of attention.
You haven't read it then?
Sorry?
You haven't read it then?
I have read it, but a long time ago. Let me see. Mr. Darcy's love interest was Louise.
Louise?
Yeah.
Louise who?
Louise Crawford. What are you laughing at?
Louise Crawford.
Yeah.
That's the
Why
name
not?
of someone we used to work with.
No, that's not.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Used to be the features editor of the Express. At
I
one
didn't
point.
even know that. So, Louise who?
It's not Louise anyone.
Well, what did you ask me for a surname for, you
Yes, I
fool?
wanted to know how well you knew the book.
Oh, really?
That's the quiz. It's about literacy. Her name was Elizabeth Bennet.
Elizabeth Bennet.
So I can tell you that your grand total of your expertise in literacy has left you with, I'm afraid, 2 out of 10, which is the worst score you've ever had.
No, that's rubbish. The first
worst
2
score.
questions were ineligible
Okay,
questions.
then 2 out of 8 then.
So that would be
25%.
25%. No, I reckon I got at least 3 and possibly 4.
No, you only got 2.
No, I'm claiming 50%.
Well, you can claim what you like. You can claim the All-Ireland University of Seamus Heaney.
Well,
That'll still only give you 3.
I'm sorry, but, you don't know things that I know. That's not my fault.
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
I wish you didn't have a name. That was the literacy quiz. 2 out of 10 for Mr. Parry. Next week, we'll be taking your nominations for what subjects we should quiz him on. This is TalkSport.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The jumping and the joint began to swing. You should have heard this knocked out jailbird sing. Let it rock. Everybody let it rock.
Funny they should be playing some Elvis music to go along with this, because I saw what has to be described as possibly the worst Elvis impersonator when I was on holiday in
did you
Turkey.
really?
Yeah.
You're joking.
There's a show every night, right?
Yeah.
And so we'd go down to this outdoor kind of disco stroke bar.
Yeah.
And they'd always have something on. One night it was a tribute to Bollywood, was there all these Indian dancers. And the next night they had some Turkish dancing, which was very similar to your Lard of the Dance thing, which I put out again the other day, actually.
Yeah, I saw that.
Vine that we did.
Yeah.
Very similar to it was like
river dance.
Irish river dance, except done by Turkish dancers.
Right.
Another night they had a sort of circus performer, guys on tight ropes and things like that. It was very good. But this one night, in fact, it was the last night we were there. They had this Elvis impersonator, but he was a Russian Elvis impersonator.
Russian.
So he spoke and sang with a Russian accent. And he was terrible.
Well, he couldn't even imitate the old,
He couldn't even do that. Even that sounded Russian.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It was just
what did it sound like? Ha, ha, ha.
No, it was dreadful. It was dreadful. And the band...
Is your lonesome tonight? Can I see you all right?
That does not sound at all
Darling,
Russian.
I will see the Kremlin with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost that bad, actually, but not quite. And isn't it funny how everybody always, when they do an Elvis impersonation, always wears the white suit?
Yeah,
They never
exactly.
do anything else.
Yeah,
It's always in a white suit.
And poor old Elvis, towards the end of his career, to the end of his life, actually, his white suit got so big. I mean, he looked like a whale, didn't he, the poor guy? Anyway, it wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault, no. And, of course, you've been to Graceland, I'm sure, in
No, I haven't, actually.
in Tennessee. Have you not?
No.
It's quite an impressive place. I mean, even just
It's only
looking
a small
at it from the
building,
outside.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's not massive.
Yeah,
but I mean,
exactly.
What's amazing about it is it's got its plane there.
Yeah.
And it's also got sort of thousands of people still to this day queuing up to go inside.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's still lots of people who don't think he's dead. You know?
I know that, yeah. And the best-known fact about Graceland is the fact that his name's spelt wrongly on his tombstone, isn't it?
Is that right?
Elvis Aaron Presley, they've spelt Aaron wrong. It's only
they?
got one A in it, should have two.
It should have two.
Yeah.
Now, for you, as an expert in pronunciation, that's a good one. Now, the real reason we were playing Jailhouse Rock, though, is because of a story that I actually spotted, and you brought to my attention as well, about how dozens of prison guards have been suspended following inappropriate relationships with inmates.
It's unbelievable. I mean, look, the search for the first Mrs. Parry is still on. Okay?
Is it still on?
Yeah. And
I thought you called it off.
No.
Bingo!
No, it could happen still. Now, the point is that, I admit to being, past the 50 mark now, okay, so you could say time is running out or whatever, right?
Not really.
No.
Because you've entered a whole new era now.
Well, you enter a whole new era, that's absolutely right.
There's widows and people like that you could...
well, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, there's no doubt about it, I'm a tasty catch for a certain category of woman, But the point is...
ones that can't see very
what goes on in prisons is quite remarkable. A load of women jailers are suddenly sort of copping off with a load of male prisoners.
And why do they have women jailers, anyway? For male prisons. I mean, I think that would be something. I mean, so when you read something, you go, hang on a second, why would they have male
because of the mad
prisoners
equality
being guarded
system?
by female jurors?
Because of the mad equality laws, right? And then you get a load of men working in women's jails. Now, actually, do you remember prisoner cell block H?
Yes.
Oh, no. Bad Girls. It's Bad Girls,
within
isn't it?
these walls was the other one, wasn't it?
Wasn't Bad Girls the one where...
I don't know, I never watched it.
Yeah, the guy called Jim or somebody who was like, he was number 3 in the prison, but it was a women's prison. He was having sex with all the inmates, and...
Was he?
Yeah, and, doing favours for them and all that kind of stuff, like, bringing them sort of, special perfumes and all that kind of stuff or whatever. So that told you that side of it. But the side I didn't realise is that, I mean, women as educated as women doctors who work in male prisons end up having affairs with armed robbers and all this kind of stuff. Now, that means...
That's a well-known kind of thing, isn't it? Where, like for example, on death row, you get all these women, admittedly from outside prison, sort of sending fan mail to these really nasty, horrible criminals.
Unbelievable. So the point is, apparently, if you're an armed robber, a nasty bit of stuff, or if you've gone around beating people up, or maybe you might even be a smoothie fraudster or something like that, because you are a criminal, you're very attractive to the female race.
Yeah.
Where did I go wrong? Maybe I should have been an armed robber rather than an industrial journalist. A hard-working journalist. I don't mean industrial, I mean industrious. An industrious journalist.
Yeah.
And then perhaps, I would have been irresistible. I mean, there was.
Are you now admitting finally that you actually were not irresistible?
No.
to women
I was
then?
about to say there was a part of my life when I was totally irresistible to women, and it was the problem of choice, which perhaps was my downfall, in that I couldn't choose between several suitors. So that's another story. But what I'm saying is, isn't it remarkable that once you become like a criminal, a villain, you become more attractive to the opposite sex?
Well,
That's
to
amazing.
certain members. Well, it's like some women are turned on, for example, by footballers, not necessarily by their athleticism, but by the money that they have or by the fame that they have.
Well, that's rather obvious.
Well, no.
Why would you be turned on by a bloke who spends his life in a 10-foot by 4-foot cell, sleeping on the second down bunk?
Because he lives on the edge, and he's not going to be in there. In this country, he's not going to be in there forever. And then there's a slightly different category of woman.
There's a chap called Kenneth Noy who he was cleared of involvement.
The famous Land Rover case, wasn't it?
Yeah,
or Range Rover or whatever. It was.
Wasn't he first of all cleared in involvement in Matt Brink situation?
Brink's Matt, yeah.
Brink's Matt. He was also cleared of murdering a policeman who was found in the grounds of his home on the grounds of self-defence. Yeah. But eventually, law caught up with him when he was convicted of a road rage killing and extradited from Spain.
Yeah.
Point of my story
was
is...
he not in Cyprus at one point as well?
I thought he was in Spain, but
he
anyway...
might have been. I think it was one of those where they were kind of looking for him all over the place.
During the trial and the Brinks Matt, and I'm not sure whether he was convicted or not, so these are all alleged, whatever. I thought he got cleared, but he might have been jailed, I'm not sure. But point of my story, I knew a girl in Fleet Street who was a crime correspondent at the Bailey, who was completely taken in by Kenneth Noy, who got talking to her and got her to bring things to the court every day for him and all this
trial
kind.
And everything,
and in the end, she got nobbled, and the police charged her with some sort of offence of aiding and abetting a prisoner or something like that. It was amazing.
These people in the prison service are risking jail term because it says here in the story that I've got that basically something like 39 prison and probation workers have been sacked over inappropriate relationships since 2010, and more than one or two of them have actually gone to jail.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's a hell of a risk to take.
But you know what? If you look at it, because I've done a lot of research on this, because something you and I talked about earlier. Some of the women involved are not just sort of women warders, who turn up at 9 o'clock to do their shift till 5, or turn up at 5 o'clock to do their shift till 8. They're women doctors and women psychiatrists and women psychologists and women lawyers who all of a sudden start smuggling guns into jails for criminals and all this kind of stuff. It is quite amazing the allure that a criminal has to a certain type of woman, and that certain type of woman is not by any means at the lower strata of society.
No.
It is amazing.
Some women are
Where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong? I ask myself.
You're just not interesting enough. That's where you went wrong.
No, it's not, Mike. The point
and
is
you're too self-centred.
because I've lived a decent,
too self-centred.
clean, genuinely decent life, looking after people, being Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not dangerous enough for a certain brand of woman. I'm not.
True.
I'm not. You just said on the edge enough.
No, you're not. You're too sort of average. Actually.
What mad woman wants to start going out with a bloke who she knows any minute now might just pick up a shooter, go into Nationwide Building Society, pull off a raid, and then end up doing another 10-year stretch?
Well, it's like Bonnie and Clyde, isn't it?
I like using all the old jail vernacular.
I can see that. Yeah, choky. You haven't said choky yet, but it's like Bonnie and Clyde. It's like the sort of.
Yeah, but they were both villains. It wasn't a question of.
Yeah, but they don't start out like that, do they?
Clyde Barrow didn't suddenly...
Look at Patty Hearst.
Didn't... she went Stockholm Syndrome. She went, no, she was so wealthy, it was just a bit of a laugh for her. It was Clyde Barrow and Bonnie... What was her name? Bonnie...
I can't remember.
Clyde Barrow and Bonnie... I'll find them. We went to the... remember the Waco situation?
Yeah.
Remember Waco?
I wasn't there. I was back in England.
I did Waco. I went down there, and a chap called Alan Hall, who's a former colleague of ours, took me off to the museum of the Texas Rangers. And, of course, one of the biggest exhibits was the capturing of Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Clyde Barrow and Bonnie... What's her name? Bonnie... It wasn't Bonnie Langton. She's a singer, isn't she?
No, it wasn't Bonnie Langton. It wasn't Bonnie Tyler, either.
Bonnie Tyler, that's her. Yeah. I was lost in France.
I don't want you to sing that, but since you can't remember the name, I was going to tell you that funnily enough, the Brinks Matt robbery thing
was
the one and only chance I had of going to Brazil when I was in America, and he got scuppered because they went and they had to go and arrest some guy who was in Brazil,
right?
And they didn't want another Ronnie Biggs situation. So they wanted to get him before he could have any children, so that they could get him back out.
Yeah.
And so I was put on standby to go and find this guy because he was in a Brazil prison,
right?
For just being held.
Yeah.
I got flown to Miami. And by which point he had been flown to Panama. And so I thought, well, Panama's not bad. It's still in Central America. I don't mind going there. I said, ring the office in an hour. And they said, oh, no, we've just spoken to the cops. They're flying him back to London. So just stay where you are in Miami. Because he's coming there. So I never got to go to Brazil anymore.
Right.
That was the Two Mics podcast.
Yes, it certainly was. Don't forget, it's out every Tuesday and every Friday morning on iTunes.
And you can follow us at the Two Mics.
So keep listening for more of MG's loose morals. Believe me, this boy hasn't got a moral fibre in his body.
And more of his bizarre buffoonery.
What?